Okay, so what you were just saying is, the barrier of entry.
Yeah.
And how it can be very, very difficult for people to get engaged in this hypothesis.
Yes.
Because it requires so much investment in understanding it. And that's why I preface what we've done thus far regarding the Egyptian pyramids with the foundation of supporting evidence that shows the evolution and development of the technology, coming from point A in stone circles to Egyptian pyramids, with all of the same knowledge applying to the function of all of the structures. And of course, we can do short overviews of these things, but the function of ancient technology should be a complex, in-depth discussion. And I take it as a great compliment that, it takes a long time on these podcasts to get through all of the information and all the research.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it does. The barrier and entry thing is the biggest thing for me, which is it's a double-edged sword. Sure. Right? Because it may be harder for something like this to go viral on the internet or something like that, or to make a really fucking fascinating, quick clip about oh my God, this is crazy, I got to share it. No, you have to really fucking dive in to everything. And it's going to take hours to really understand it, to make it click, and to then you zoom out and you're like, holy shit, this makes the most sense. Yeah. This really does make the most sense.
And in my opinion, I take that as a compliment. It's how it should be. Yeah. This is not simple technology.
This is not something that you're going to be able to download on a TikTok video.
It's the evolution over thousands of years of deep understanding of the forces of nature, physics, and chemistry that resulted in the development of the most complex Type 1 civilization technology that we see on the planet. Their mastery of the forces and cycles of nature, from the power source to the physics to the chemistry, is something that's almost beyond our comprehension. And like Steve was saying, he was like, why don't you make that model out of steel? Instead of using plexiglass, use steel. That's exactly what Fritz Haber did, is he took the engineering of the Red Pyramid, and instead of using plexiglass or stone, he used steel reaction chambers, which led us to the development of the Haber process and the modern manufacturing of ammonia that we have today. Right. Is by using steel reaction chambers.
But it wasn't the same shape though, right?
It was, it's the same physics.
Weren't they?
They're cylinders, but you're still using the manipulation of temperature and pressure and pressurized gas and electrical current to drive these chemical reactions. Right. So that's exactly what he did. Is the same idea that Steve had, is instead of making a model out of stone or plexiglass, why don't we make it smaller out of steel? And that's exactly what Fritz Haber did, is build that small apparatus with the exact same configuration of the Red Pyramid, which led to our modern industrial scale ammonia manufacturing. The exact same thing that we just saw. Right. So we're going to breeze through the bent pyramid. Okay. I'm just going to kind of comment on the process where they're using the carbon dioxide byproduct of the Red Pyramid and the aqueous ammonia solution to produce urea. Primary application being for fertilizer. I've also proposed an alternative hypothesis for the function of the bent pyramid for the production of nitric acid. Which again, when you combine nitric acid with hydrochloric acid, you can produce aqua regia, one of the only aqueous chemicals that can dissolve gold. So it always goes back to gold and the processing of gold ore and the separation of pure gold. So here, I'll run through the animations on the function of the bent pyramid, just so you can see that the same mechanisms of operation apply to the function of the bent pyramid that also apply to the Red Pyramid. So we had the carbon dioxide byproduct that was being produced in the manufacturing sequence in the Red Pyramid. That is introduced into the reaction chambers along with the aqueous ammonia solution to produce urea, with the satellite pyramid being a hydraulic press that controls the operation of the stone valves within the bent pyramid. So here we have the filling process, filling the primary reactor with aqueous ammonia, introducing the carbon dioxide, which produces a chemical reaction that generates either ammonium bicarbonate or ammonium carbamate, depending on the temperature and pressure conditions. I won't get into the weeds on that right now. Okay. So we're filling it, introducing the gas, creating ammonium bicarbonate or ammonium carbamate. Next sequence is activating the pump shafts to introduce more water into the facility. The exact same mechanisms of operation that we just saw in the red pyramid, where water from the reservoir was introduced into these pump shafts, and the pump shafts were utilized to manipulate the water level within the chambers. So you have a solid compound that's developing inside the primary reaction chamber. The only way to redissolve that is by introducing more water into the reactor, which is where the water from the reservoir comes into play. The water from the reservoir is introduced into the lower chamber system. It will fill the northern pump shaft. That pump shaft is activated to press more water into the connecting passage. That water will then fill the western pump shaft. Then the western pump shaft is activated to pump more water into the primary reactor to dissolve the solid compound, and the whole thing is extracted through the lower separation chamber system.
Okay.
So here's kind of an animation showing the function of the bent pyramid. If anyone wants to go more in depth on any of these topics, check out my YouTube channel.
Perfect.
Okay, the Great Pyramid.
Dun, dun, dun.
So we talked about at the beginning of the episode how if we were to travel to an extraterrestrial planet,
yes,
the moon, the Mars, or an asteroid, the first thing that we would do is build in situ chemical manufacturing and mining facilities. This is a paper talking about the proposed silicate sulfuric acid process, mineral processing for in situ resource utilization. That's been the whole topic of this overall podcast, is utilizing in situ natural resources for producing chemicals for metallurgical applications.
What does in situ mean?
On site.
Okay.
So
this
instead
is a
of
paper, the abstract is volatile elements and compounds found in extraterrestrial environments are often the target of in situ resource utilization studies.
And long story short, this is saying that we would want to build a facility on an extraterrestrial planet that could exploit sulfur resources for the extraction of iron metal and the production of metals on site. This is exactly what the Great Pyramid was designed to do.
This was from what? Curtin University?
Correct. Yeah, the Space Science and Technology Center. So this is just kind of entertaining the idea that, again, I don't buy into this, that the Great Pyramid or any of the pyramids or any of this ancient structures around the world were built by extraterrestrials. But if we were traveling to an extraterrestrial planet,
we're already hypothesizing how we would extract minerals and create and manufacture
by building
chemicals.
An in situ sulfuric acid manufacturing facility that utilizes extraterrestrial sulfur sources for these metallurgical processes. And this is almost verbatim exactly what was happening inside of the Great Pyramid, where the Great Pyramid is built on top of a local source of sulfur for creating sulfuric acid for mining and metallurgical processes.
See, that's all you had to do to sell it. Just a little dab.
This right here.
Just a little
dab of aliens in there.
A little alien cherry on top.
Little tease. Yeah. So again, I don't buy into that.
Right.
I think that these were built by human beings, but I think it's fun to entertain these alternative hypotheses because, again, there's a lot of rhetoric and mythology about extraterrestrials coming to the planet for mining gold, specifically with the Anunnaki topic. Again, I don't really buy into that. I think these are made by humans, but if humans were going to other planets, you don't bring the stuff.
No.
You build it on site.
Right.
That's exactly what we would do, creating sulfuric acid for metallurgy and mining applications. Okay, so let's dive into the function of the Great Pyramid. We're going to walk through the function of each chamber individually, and I'll also discuss what is really below the Giza Plateau, a natural cave and tunnel system, and hydrothermal vents that created these iron oxide deposits and the source of the hydrogen sulfide that was utilized within the Great Pyramid to produce sulfuric acid. Okay. So why would you create sulfuric acid? Mostly for metallurgical processes.
Right.
So you can also make fertilizers, petroleum refining, metal processing. All of these applications that we've talked about across the board apply to sulfuric acid as a product of the Great Pyramid. Again, the product is not electricity. The product is chemicals. sulfuric acid specifically inside the Great Pyramid that can be utilized for processes like leach mining and the separation of metals. So this is a diagram from a paper that I'm about to present showing the natural cave and tunnel system below the Giza Plateau, below the Giza Pyramids, that also includes, you see these big vertical features?
Yeah.
These hydrothermal vents that are from the ancient Tethys seafloor. Hydrothermal vents can extend into the bedrock for kilometers. They are extremely deep, vertical features that are a natural part of the limestone bedrock of the Giza Plateau that are a part of this ancient seafloor. These hydrothermal processes are what created the iron veins on the Giza Plateau. These deposits of iron metal were created by hydrothermal vents on the ancient Tethys seafloor that created the limestone bedrock of the Giza Plateau.
Whoa.
Okay, sulfur.
Directly under the pyramids?
Directly below the pyramids. And I'm going to show you a paper that corroborates that, talking about hydrothermal vent systems.
Did you show this to your boy?
Who?
The Filippo guy?
Oh, no. So I don't know that they know about this yet, because this is a fairly recent discovery for me. I found this paper probably within the past 6 months.
Okay.
My original hypothesis for the source of the sulfur is basically what we're talking about here is sulfur mining in Egypt. They were mining sulfur in ancient Egypt. That's a well-documented process. And they were using the sulfur for a variety of applications from cosmetics to pharmaceuticals. And they know where they were mining these things. For example, Gebel El Zayt, as I mentioned before, is one of the mining locations. No, that's Wad and El Faras, which is kind of close to here. But they had specific mining areas close to the Suez Canal that were the mining locations for native sulfur, like elemental sulfur.
Sure.
It wasn't until much later that I found this paper that supported the idea that there were actually sulfide deposits directly below the Giza pyramids.
Sulfide deposits.
Yeah, specifically hydrogen sulfide gas. Now, they could have been extracting this sulfur using a process that is reminiscent of our modern day Frash process, which is, again, pumping hot water into these sulfide deposits, very similar to the process that was utilized in the Step Pyramid for the extraction of bedrock methane. Okay, so raw materials. We have talked about the Egyptian pyramids harnessing raw materials and utilizing those raw materials that are abundant resources of the earth for a variety of different manufacturing processes. So we have sulfur, air, water, and methane. Again, Step Pyramid, extracting bedrock deposits of methane. The Serapeum, converting air into hydrogen and oxygen. The Red Pyramid, converting hydrogen and nitrogen into ammonia. And the Great Pyramid, transforming sulfur and air into sulfur trioxide and dilute sulfuric acid. Okay, so the configuration of the King's Chamber. There is a shaft system below the King's Chamber. Shout out Matt Simpson from Ancient Architects. Recently did a video about this, showing the shaft system below the King's Chamber that is the inlet for the hydrogen sulfide gas that was being introduced into the reactor. Same thing as we had here in the bottom of the final reaction chamber of the Red Pyramid, the final synthesis chamber, there was a shaft. That's why they excavated out all the stone from inside of the final synthesis chamber of the Red Pyramid. They were following that shaft.
And what went in that shaft?
It's the extraction of the product. The aqueous ammonia was being extracted
out there at the end.
Out of that shaft system.
I see.
So there is a hole, a shaft, in the bottom of the King's
Chris Dunn
Chamber.
telling me about this.
Yeah. They excavated down in this thing, and they just found that it was filled with rubble and debris. So they abandoned the excavation. This is the inlet shaft that was being utilized to introduce the sulfur dioxide. The hydrogen sulfide is first converted into sulfur dioxide in a series of steps that happen in the satellite pyramids. Again, I'm going to breeze through this very quickly.
Where's the inlet shaft here?
So let me show you.
This is the King's Chamber.
Yeah.
We're looking at right here.
Okay, so here is a picture. You see on the right where those blocks are?
Yeah.
Those are blocks that have been removed from the floor.
Okay.
And I'll show you the configuration. So this is a modern picture that I took during one of my recent private special permissions into the Great Pyramid. The shaft is now covered up with a modern metal grate. So you can't see the shaft anymore. And those blocks that were originally in there have been removed. Those red granite slabs that were a part of the floor are no longer in the structure.
Okay.
And they've covered it up with...
On the right there.
Correct. Yeah, you see that metal grate?
Yep.
That flat piece of metal?
Yes.
Yeah, they've painted it to make it look like red granite, but that's where the shaft is going down into the bottom of the king's chamber.
Okay.
Here you can see it on this diagram. See that shaft next to the container? That's the shaft that they excavated.
No, where?
So you see the sarcophagus, the container?
Oh, yeah.
That hole?
I see. Yeah. Okay.
So that's the inlet shaft that was used.
Something came in there.
Correct. The inlet shaft that was introducing sulfur dioxide into the king's chamber. So the hydrogen sulfide itself comes from below the Giza Plateau.
Hydrogen sulfide is what's naturally under the Giza Plateau.
Correct.
Okay.
The hydrogen sulfide is converted into sulfur dioxide in a 3-step series within the satellite pyramids.
Okay.
That sulfur dioxide is then introduced into the furnace chamber, the king's chamber, through this inlet shaft.
Where's the other end of that inlet shaft?
What do you mean?
Where's
it comes from below the structure, underneath the structure.
It comes from in the ground.
Connecting the satellite pyramids into the king's chamber.
No way. We
100%.
know this?
So again, they excavated down into this hole that you can see there.
Yeah.
The hole was already there. During the modern archaeological excavations, the hole was already there. They excavated further following the hole, and all they found was that it was filled in with sand and debris.
Okay.
So they abandoned it.
Okay.
So that inlet shaft was already clogged with material
Okay.
from thousands of years of material building up inside of the structure. Same thing as the king's chamber air shafts were clogged with material. And they had to clear out that material from inside of the air shafts to remove all of that. And that's when air started flowing into the king's chamber air shafts. So this is just a picture looking down into this hole that you can see here on the diagram. And those speckled blocks are the pieces of the floor that were removed during the excavation to follow that hole. You can see those pieces would have fit here and here. And that red square is the original hole in the floor, the inlet shaft that was used to introduce the sulfur dioxide into the king's chamber.
So did they break up the pieces of rock and remove them?
Nobody knows what happened to it, but they're no longer in there.
And how do we know for sure that that hole connects to the other pyramids?
We don't know for sure.
Okay, this is just a hypothesis.
Hypothesis, correct.
Got it.
Yeah, so when it comes to my hypotheses on the various Egyptian pyramids, I try to do as little speculation as possible for things like the extraction shaft of the Red Pyramid. There has to be a reason that they excavated the entire floor of the final synthesis chamber and removed all of that material. There's a giant pit in there now. So we don't know what the original configuration of this final synthesis chamber was. Right. So in my opinion, they were following the extraction shaft and they excavated all of that material in search of the pharaonic burial and treasure.
Right.
But all they found, again, was a pit that was filled in with material.
Got it.
So it was abandoned.
I see.
This is, again, my hypothesis about this shaft below the king's chamber, which went down further, but it was filled with material already.
2026 begins today, and every year I tell myself the same thing. I want more energy, better focus, and faster recovery. And not in the New Year's resolution way. I mean actually feeling sharper day to day. And if you're around my age, you've probably noticed even if you're eating right and training right and doing all the right things, your energy just isn't quite what it used to be. That constant brain fog, slower recovery, feeling worn down for no obvious reason, there's a real culprit. It's NAD. By the time you hit your 30s, your NAD levels drop by almost 50%. And NAD is critical for how your body creates energy, repairs itself, and keeps your brain firing on all cylinders. And that's why I use Row Nutrition's liposomal NAD. And I'm not exaggerating when I say the difference is noticeable. The energy feels clean and steady. My focus is way sharper and my recovery feels a lot faster without having to rely on caffeine or stimulants to push me through the day. The NAD fuels your mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. And until recently, replenishing it meant expensive clinical visits and IVs. Row uses an advanced liposomal delivery system. designed to help your body absorb NAD efficiently without the hassle or insane costs. I've been using Rose liposomal NAD consistently, and it's already become a staple in my routine. You've been seeing pro athletes, trainers, and health-focused people all use it for a reason. That's because it works. If you want to start 2026 feeling your best, you can try it risk-free with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Plus, get 20% off using the code DANNY at rownutrition.com. Again, that's code DANNY for 20% off at RHONUTRITION.com. It's linked down below. Now back to the show.
Okay, we'll get into it in some animations that show the whole process.
Okay.
That illustrate everything that I'm talking about. Okay, so caves. These are some images of hypogean cave systems. So like the hypogeum or hypogenic means formation from below. Okay. So these are some images of sulfuric speleogenetic hypogean cave systems. It's a very complicated geological term for cave systems that form as a result of sulfuric acid. These are in Austria. These are just sulfuric acid caves. Okay, you see these formations? This is exactly what they find all over the Giza Plateau, are formations that look exactly like this. These are my pictures from an area adjacent to the Great Pyramid. You can see there on the left, this geological formation. It's the end of a tunnel that goes down into the bedrock.
The one on the left?
The one on the left.
Is where, specifically where?
So this is adjacent to the Great Pyramid in an area known as the Trial Passages.
Okay.
And it's a tunnel going down into the bedrock that is connected into this cave and tunnel system below Giza. Okay. You can see this is the exact type of formation that we have here.
Yeah.
These sulfuric acid cave systems that form in bedrock. Here on the right is an area called the Tomb of the Birds. Have you heard about this?
No.
Again, shout out Hugh Newman and Andrew Collins. This is one of the primary entrances into the subterranean cave and tunnel network below Giza, the Tomb of the Birds. And I've been down inside of it, and you see all this red material? It's all iron ore. Okay, here's a paper. Hypogean caves in hypogean cave patterns in iron ore caves. This is exactly what we have below the Giza Plateau, is a subterranean cave system that is permeated with iron ore deposits. So this whole paper talks about speleogenesis, which is a word that means cave formation.
Okay.
So speleogenesis in iron ore caves. This is exactly what we have on the Giza Plateau.
We have iron ore in those caves.
This is it right here. This is a picture inside the Tomb of the Birds, which is an opening. You can see it on the left too. All of this material is permeated with iron ore all across the Giza Plateau.
Okay.
The whole cave system inside the Tomb of the Birds, which is a tunnel that leads down into the bedrock of the Giza Plateau, is filled with iron ore. So this is just a paper corroborating the idea that there can be cave formations in these iron ore deposits. This is exactly what it looks like down in the Tomb of the Birds.
Wow.
If you want to see a video of it, we could pause real quick and I could pull that up if you want to see a video. But I have it on my channel where I'm down inside the Tomb of the Birds.
Yeah, we don't need to see it. I mean, this is good enough.
So these are cave formations, bedrock cave formations. And you can see that they can stratify into layers and individual chambers that are connected through tunnels, natural geological formations. Here's probably the most important paper that I've ever discovered. Okay. So the development of sulfuric acid speleogenetic deposits within cavernous Middle Eocene beds, an inference on hydrocarbon gas seepages, Giza Pyramids Plateau, Egypt. So very complicated geological nomenclature.
X-ray fluorescent analysis.
So we'll get into, so the synopsis of this paper
yes
is that there are hydrocarbon deposits, So we're talking about methane gas and the gas seepages that led to the development of the step pyramid and the extraction of methane. Methane is a hydrocarbon. This paper is corroborating the presence of these hydrocarbon gas seepages below the pyramid complexes of Lower Egypt. Specifically on the Giza Plateau, they have hydrogen sulfide coming up from these caves.
Oh my gosh. I found the same thing, Googling it.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, so again, yes, scientific research has suggested that natural sulfuric acid speleogenesis, cave formation, has occurred within the limestone bedrock of the Giza Plateau.
Wow.
This is linked historically to hydrocarbon gas seepages from deeper subsurface reservoirs below the plateau. This is monumental in understanding the function of the Giza Plateau chemical manufacturing complex, which is again why I preface this whole discussion with research evidence that there's a connection between subterranean gas resources, metal ore deposits, telluric currents, lightning strike locations, and natural gas reserves. Everything coming to the culmination on the construction of the Giza Plateau. The apex execution of this natural resource utilization and optimization technology. This is not speculation. This is a fact that there are caves and tunnels below the Giza Plateau that provide the hydrogen sulfide that was converted into sulfur dioxide that was transformed within the Great Pyramid into dilute sulfuric acid. Caves and tunnels below Giza Plateau that also substantiate my hypothesis about methane hydrocarbons below the step pyramid.
Whoa.
Massive, massive, important geological paper. So these things are called karsts. So karsts are geological formations that are a result of erosion. And these karst systems are all over the Giza Plateau. So this statement here just corroborates the existence of these oil fields in the Western Desert and these reservoirs for hydrocarbon gas seepages. And again, restates the association of hydrogen sulfide coming from these hydrocarbon sources below the ground.
Okay.
Natural gas reserves, both methane and hydrogen sulfide below these pyramid structures.
And these pyramids, the other two pyramids, were tapped in directly to these caves?
Correct. So below the step pyramid, they are extracting bedrock deposits of methane gas.
What about Khafre?
Khafre, so the central pyramid is converting the dilute sulfuric acid into hydrochloric acid by reacting it with salt. So we'll touch on that here in just a minute.
Okay.
But this is, I cannot reinforce the significance of this paper enough. It is massive, massive revelation in understanding the function of the Egyptian pyramids, specifically the Giza Plateau complex. So long story short, there are hydrogen sulfide deposits in these caves, and that gas is rising to the surface from inside of these caves. So they took chemical analysis of samples all over the Giza Plateau, and they found a variety of metal compounds. The metal compounds that they found in their chemical analysis matches the chemical analysis data that the ACITA project has in their samples from the iron ore deposits. So again, this paper is corroborating the existence of these metal ore formations on the Giza Plateau and also corroborating the chemical analysis data that has all of these variety of metals. Again, this is me standing in a huge metal ore deposit adjacent to the central pyramid. These iron ore formations, you cannot take one step on the Giza Plateau without stepping over an iron vein.
Wow.
And I have a map of this that I'll show you in just a minute. This is me down inside one of these karst formations that is connected to the quote unquote boat pits on the eastern side of the central pyramid. This is a tubular iron vein in the wall of this pit. So down in this pit, you see all that erosion in there?
Yeah.
That is sulfuric acid erosion that created these karst formations. Down inside of that pit is this huge tubular vein of iron. It's about 1.5 feet long, it's maybe 2 feet long, 1.5 feet deep. Huge vein of iron.
How would it create this big circular tube like this?
Okay, so these are the result of hydrothermal vents hundreds of millions of years ago during the formation of the Giza Plateau bedrock. These hydrothermal systems created these iron ore deposits. These are natural formations in the bedrock that are the result of hydrothermal formations at the bottom of the ancient Tethys seafloor. Understanding the ancient geology of the Giza Plateau and the natural resources that it contains are essential to understanding the impetus and the operation of the pyramid complex.
So they go vertical?
Correct. Hydrothermal vents are huge vertical features in the bedrock where this ore material was being forced up by the hot water and deposited into the limestone bedrock of the Giza Plateau. Hundreds of millions of years ago, Tethys Sea. Okay, so at the conclusion of the paper, they say again that there is groundwater and sulfuric acid below the Giza Plateau, and this hydrogen sulfide gas is rising up from this cave and tunnel system. So you can see these vertical features, which are ancient hydrothermal vertical bedrock features that deposited these iron veins and iron ore deposits all over the Giza Plateau and the natural karst cave and tunnel system.
Fascinating.
This is another depiction of that same process, with this hydrogen sulfide gas coming from subterranean acidic groundwater below the Giza Plateau. This is exactly what we talked about in the operation of the step pyramid being built on top of these hydrocarbon deposits and extracting bedrock deposits of methane. This probably the most important thing that I've ever presented regarding the function of the pyramids is the source of the sulfur gas below the Giza Plateau.
When did you discover this stuff?
This is within the last 6 months.
Wow.
When I was in Japan, I stumbled across this research paper.
Wow.
Again, I thought my original hypothesis was that they were extracting and mining elemental sulfur, because we know that they were mining sulfur in Egypt, and that sulfur was heated to release sulfur dioxide. That's how we do it today.
Right.
In the modern contact process, we introduce air and sulfur into a burner, and they heat it to react the sulfur and the oxygen to create sulfur dioxide, essentially burning raw elemental sulfur. That was my original hypothesis. When I discovered this, it was unbelievably ground shattering, like earth shattering, that there's actually the source of sulfur directly below. Right. They didn't need to mine the sulfur. It came directly from below the pyramids, which it linked all of my other hypotheses about the exploitation of natural resources. Everything came together when I discovered this paper. Okay, so again, I talked about how the hydrogen sulfide is transformed into sulfur dioxide. The sulfur dioxide is introduced into the king's chamber. Then we create sulfur trioxide, which I'll get into how that happens in just a minute. So here is a paper, U.S. patent, method for preparing sulfuric acid using hydrogen sulfide.
Okay.
So an academic, this is a patent where they're taking hydrogen sulfide, they're converting it into sulfur dioxide. And the process also involves a heat exchanger, which is my hypothesis for the big void above the Grand Gallery. It's a heat exchanger for removing some of the heat energy from this extremely exothermic reaction. And it's in the perfect location for a heat exchanger component. Okay, so here we have diagram of the King's Chamber with the sulfur dioxide inlet shaft. Again, I just showed a paper that corroborates this chemical process of converting hydrogen sulfide. Just so happens that they use a 3-step process. There's 3 satellite pyramids adjacent to the Great Pyramid. there's technically a fourth, which there's nothing that really exists of it now, but there are 3 main satellite pyramids adjacent to the Great Pyramid, 3-step process to convert hydrogen sulfide into sulfur dioxide.
Wow. Holy shit, man.
Okay, so we have hydrogen sulfide being converted into sulfur dioxide.
Yep.
Primary step. Hydrogen sulfide comes directly from below the Giza Plateau.
Yes.
Natural resource exploitation.
Yep.
Using the subterranean gas reserves to drive the chemical reaction process and as the initial reactant in the whole sequence.
Okay.
Brings everything together in the function of the Great Pyramid.
So go back to that last one. So what is the blue stuff coming in?
Water.
That's water coming in through the bottom.
Yeah, so this is actually, I'll have an animation of this here in just a second that describes the process.
Okay.
So the big void.
Yes.
We don't know what it is yet.
Right.
There's an exploration coming up in 2026 where they're going to be investigating the northern shaft inside of the Queen's Chamber and also exploring the big void.
Which one's the northern one? The one on the right?
Yes. Coming from the Queen's Chamber, the northern shaft is the one on the right.
And it goes next to the Grand Gallery?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the void is just a big empty space. We don't know what's in there.
It's like the size of a passenger jet, right? Like
it's said to be the similar size to the Grand Gallery.
Oh.
It's like a copy of the Grand Gallery right above it.
Got it.
Which is why I have on this diagram a similar configuration.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll get to that in just a second.
Okay.
Okay. So let's animate the process.
Okay.
So now we have our antechamber filled with the red granite slabs.
Yep.
The antechamber was originally blocked with 3 huge red granite slabs. Then we have our inlet shaft that is used to introduce the sulfur dioxide into the furnace chamber. Grand Gallery filled with water. The gas fills the reaction chamber. The entire conversion process driven by lightning-induced electric fields within the Great Pyramid. I'll show you that in just a second. So let's start at the very beginning, subterranean chamber.
Okay.
This is where it gets very technical, and I want to make sure I'm very meticulous about explaining each step of the operation.
Okay.
I'll get back to the lightning-induced electric fields and the creation of ultrasound as a catalyst within the Great Pyramid.
Okay.
Okay, subterranean chamber. We have the external reservoir surrounding the Great Pyramid. Again, same mechanisms of operation apply. Configuration of the subterranean chamber here. The external reservoir was utilized to introduce water into the subterranean chamber.
Okay.
Okay. The best theory out there, other than the one we're currently explaining, for the subterranean chamber is John Cadman's work. He also agrees with the hypothesis that there's an external reservoir that was the source of the water being introduced into the subterranean chamber. He calls it a ram pump system.
Yep.
Okay. You see the outlet line on the left?
Yeah.
He thinks that the southern shaft leading out of the subterranean chamber was an output line for this ram pump system. I crawled down inside of that southern shaft to confirm that it is 100% a dead end in the bedrock. And I have this on video if you want to look at my subterranean.
How long were you crawling through that?
It's not that far. But as you can see, it's a very, very tight space. And I have video documentation showing it's a dead end in the bedrock.
Okay.
This southern shaft cannot.
Which one's the southern shaft?
So subterranean chamber, you see the thing going out to the left that says output line?
Yes.
That's the southern shaft.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. It is dead end in bedrock.
Okay.
100%. There's no argument on that.
Okay.
I've shown abundant video documentation of that.
No secret doors.
No secret doors, no check valve, no output line.
Okay.
So the only place the water can go is up through the well shaft.
The well shaft is the one going diagonal up.
Correct. Yeah, the standpipe. He calls it a standpipe.
Okay.
And well shaft.
Okay.
Okay, so here's an image from a German engineering team that I discovered well after I published my book that includes the idea of one-way valves in the subterranean. You see that little one-way valve in the bottom of the shaft there?
Black thing?
Yeah, that's a one-way valve. I agree with the hypothesis that there are one-way valves inside the subterranean chamber. Cadman also suggests, you see these check valves? He also suggests that there's one-way valves down inside of this chamber. So this is an idea that is well supported within the investigation of the function of the subterranean chamber are the existence of these one-way valves.
If you enjoy watching our show on Spotify or YouTube and you want to be more involved, I encourage you to please come check out our Patreon community. Not only does our Patreon community get every episode you see on YouTube early, fully uncensored, and ad-free, but we're also doing Patreon exclusive episodes as well as live Q&As, and you can get your personal questions answered by our guests every single week. For me, being able to collaborate and communicate back and forth with our Patreon community every week has been huge. And this is my way of saying thank you for the cost of a cup of coffee a month. Now back to the show.
Okay, so the one-way valve you see there, I have them indicated in red on my diagram. So the water comes from the external reservoir
down
into the subterranean chamber.
Okay.
It cannot go out of the southern shaft. So where does it go?
Down?
Up.
It can't go down because there's a valve there.
Correct.
So it goes up that other vertical shaft.
And as it rises into the well shaft, it's going to open that one-way valve. The water is going to fill to the level equal to the water in the external reservoir. Step number 1, fill the well shaft. Step number 2 is implement your pump mechanism. So the same mechanisms of operation for the step pyramid, red pyramid, bent pyramid also apply to the Great Pyramid, which is compressing water in the descending shaft, which fills the Queen's Chamber and the Grand Gallery. Okay, so the next thing, when you start to pull back on that pump, it's going to pull water from below the structure.
Okay, when you say pull back on the pump, what do you mean exactly?
Retract the pump up the shaft.
So there's a pump that pushes down that diagonal shaft and shoves the water in.
Correct.
And then will ultimately fill up the Queen's Chamber and the Grand Gallery.
Correct.
Okay.
So when you retract that pump, the one-way valve in the subterranean chamber will open, allowing you to pull water into the subterranean chamber from below. Because there is a aquifer directly below. We talked about the aquifers on the Giza Plateau.
Yeah.
Directly below the Great Pyramid.
And we know that it connects to that descending chamber.
So the descending shaft is another one of these debris-filled shafts. It's filled with sand now. And it's wet sand. The last couple times I've been down in there, the water level fluctuates, but it's been very, very damp. So there's still water below the Great Pyramid that's connected to this subterranean vertical shaft going below the Great Pyramid. It's filled with sand.
Got it.
So if you pull back on that thing, it's going to draw water back into the pump shaft, which allows you to continue the compression process. So that's step number 1, is running the subterranean pump system to drive water into the Grand Gallery. And it would take 4 activations of this pump system to completely fill the Grand Gallery. And there's a very specific reason why it's done in 4 stages.
Okay.
Because it allows the very gradual raising of the water inside of the Grand Gallery, which controls the chemical reaction inside of that component. Because you want it to happen very slowly, where you're bringing your sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide gas gradually into contact with the water, which is going to form intermediaries of sulfurous and sulfuric acid so that the SO3 is actually dissolving into sulfuric acid and not water. It's high level chemical reactions that involve intermediary compounds.
Okay.
I won't go too deep in the weeds on that, but just for people that want to know, it's a multi-stage chemical reaction. In chemistry, it's not always A plus B equals C. It's sometimes A plus B equals intermediary C that reacts with D to create E.
Okay.
There's multiple stages in chemical reactions. It's not always simple, A plus B equals C. So 4 pumps to fill the Grand Gallery. So we have our Grand Gallery filled with water. Why is the Grand Gallery slanted?
Pressure?
The Grand Gallery acts like a syringe. That when you drain the water from inside of the Grand Gallery, if you see this top diagram?
Yeah. It's a vertical shot of it?
Yeah. Like looking down on the Grand Gallery.
Looking straight down.
It looks like a syringe.
It does.
And if you were to fill that thing with water and slowly drain the water inside of that chamber, it is going to pull air through the air shafts into the reaction chamber system, and it is going to pull your reactant gases through the antechamber into the grand gallery.
Yes. When it comes down.
When the water level is lowered, correct. It is a syringe. So if you were to put that vertically, it wouldn't connect to the King's chamber, and you wouldn't be able to effectively draw any air into the system. If it was horizontal, you wouldn't have enough time in the water lowering process to effectively draw air through the air intake shafts, pulling it into the grand gallery. So it has to be at a horizontal configuration to allow for the steady draining of the water that pulls air into the King's chamber through the antechamber into the grand gallery. It's a very meticulous engineering feature.
Why do you need to pull air from the King's chamber into the grand gallery?
Because you need that air to react with the sulfur dioxide to create sulfur trioxide. You need the oxygen from the air.
And the sulfur dioxide is automatically coming into the King's chamber from the other pyramid.
Correct.
So it's already so the sulfur dioxide is already in the King's chamber, and then the water is acting as pressure, like a reverse syringe to suck the gas out of the King's chamber back down into the grand gallery.
Correct. So
and
here,
then what?
So here in this little animation, this is showing the modern contact process for producing sulfuric acid. So you have air and sulfur going into a reactor where those two things are reacted inside a catalytic converter to create sulfur trioxide. That sulfur trioxide is then absorbed into sulfuric acid and extracted from the dilution tank.
Okay.
This is very similar. It's not exactly the same. The chemical reaction stages are a little bit different, but the same mechanisms of operation apply. Air through the air shafts is being pulled into the King's chamber and reacted with sulfur dioxide in the antechamber acoustic catalyst chamber to create sulfur trioxide. Okay, here's a diagram showing the configuration of the northern air shafts, the King's chamber air shafts. They do not
go out of the King's chamber.
Yeah, they do not point at stars.
Oh, interesting. They go horizontal?
Yeah, again, shout out Matt Simpson from Ancient Architects, who recently did an episode on this.
I thought they went straight out horizontal or
Nope.
vertically.
Nope.
Not vertically, diagonally.
Nope. That's a big myth. This is the configuration of the King's chamber air shaft terminations on the outside of the pyramid.
Okay.
They do not point to any stars or constellations. They go horizontal. They are simply air intake shafts. And the reason they go horizontal is to prevent a bunch of stuff getting sucked in and flowing down the air shafts. You don't want it open.
Falling in.
Correct. So this is the original configuration of the air shafts.
And that's what it still is?
No, it's not. So you see the line of the formal external casing, all of that casing stone is gone. And the horizontal hash marks that you can see on the diagram is what's left. But you can see that the tail end of the air shaft is originally made to connect to a horizontal feature.
Yeah.
It does not go diagonally out.
Right.
It is a horizontal termination.
Wow.
Super important
Yeah.
in dispelling some of the rhetoric about these things being celestial constellation.
Yeah.
That's not true. They went horizontal. They don't
Interesting.
point at anything.
Very
and they don't
interesting.
shoot out into the atmosphere either. They're horizontal.
Okay.
Okay, so how does the air get from the King's chamber into the grand gallery?
It gets sucked out from the water.
Through these vertical grooves. So on the southern wall of the antechamber, there are 4 vertical grooves that allow the sulfur dioxide to be pulled into the antechamber, where the sulfur...
For people just that don't understand, the antechamber is the chamber between the King's chamber and the grand gallery.
Correct. Yes. And it was originally sealed with 3 huge red granite blocks. So there was no way for anything to go in or out of the King's chamber except through these 4 grooves. The only thing that could go through there is air or gas.
Right.
Because the whole thing is sealed with 3 huge red granite blocks.
Water couldn't get through?
No, because it's blocked by red granite.
Okay.
So the water from the Grand Gallery can't go into the King's Chamber, nor could anything go from the King's Chamber into the Grand Gallery along the floor, because the red granite blocks went all the way to the floor.
Okay.
These 4 grooves allow the flow of sulfur dioxide through the grooves, being pulled in as the water level is lowered in the Grand Gallery into the acoustic catalyst chamber, where the ultrasound coming from the red granite creates a chemical reaction between the sulfur dioxide and oxygen from the air. That's why you have air intake shafts. It's pulling air into the reaction chamber system.
Got it.
All right.
Yep.
So again, red granite, ultrasound, same methods of operation in the serapeum, where the electric field in those acoustic ultrasound transducers are creating ultrasound vibrations. That exact same thing applies to the function of the Great Pyramid, where that ultrasound is used as a catalyst.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about the sulfur dioxide filling process, how the sulfur dioxide was introduced into the King's Chamber. Now we have that here added to our diagram with the water filling the Grand Gallery.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our SO2, sulfur dioxide, inside the King's Chamber, and we have our Grand Gallery filled with water.
Yes.
So now we're going to lower the water level inside the Grand Gallery. That process, just like a syringe pulling back on a syringe, is going to pull air in through the air intake shafts into the King's Chamber, and it will pull those sulfur oxide reactants into the Grand Gallery. So we're lowering the water level, and it's pulling those gases from the King's Chamber through the antechamber into the Grand Gallery. Step number 2.
Wow.
Then we pull back on the pump and we start to raise the water level inside of the Grand Gallery. Again, it takes 4 activations of the pump mechanism to fill the Grand Gallery. This is slowly raising the water and bringing the sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide into contact with water. This is going to create a sulfurous and dilute sulfuric acid solution in a multi-stage chemical reaction. So for those chemistry nerds out there that want to get deep into the weeds on the chemical reaction. So let's say that the conversion in the antechamber is not 100%. So we have SO2 plus oxygen that's creating SO3. If there's any residual sulfur dioxide left, the sulfur dioxide will dissolve into water to produce sulfurous acid. Sulfurous acid oxidizes very quickly in air to produce dilute sulfuric acid. The sulfur trioxide will then very readily dissolve into that dilute sulfuric acid. So it's a multi-stage reaction to produce this product. That's why there are 4 activations of the pump to fill the Grand Gallery, because you want this to happen very slow.
Okay.
It is a very violent chemical reaction to try and dissolve sulfur trioxide directly into water. You don't want to do that. You want to create intermediary products so that the sulfur trioxide is actually dissolving into dilute sulfuric acid.
Got it.
So there's intermediary reactions that happen in the process. So again, we're filling the Grand Gallery with water. The water is creating our dilute sulfuric acid product. Then the whole thing is extracted through the Queen's Chamber, which is the extraction chamber.
So all the water is sucked out of the Queen's Chamber.
Correct. And the product.
And the product.
And we have chemical analysis data that supports the hypothesis that there was dilute sulfuric acid inside both the Grand Gallery and the Queen's Chamber. the presence of calcium sulfate. Chemical analysis of the salt from inside of those chambers shows calcium sulfate, which occurs as a direct reaction between calcium carbonate limestone and dilute sulfuric acid.
Wow.
I'll get into that in just a second. So again, this is just showing that the reaction between sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, and water is very, very violent. So you want to control that in the grand gallery to prevent the solution from violently boiling over.
Right.
So that's why there's intermediaries, and it's done very, very slowly.
Right.
And those two gases, both sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide, are highly soluble in water. So as soon as you push water toward those gases, that's why it's called the contact process in today's modern industrial manufacturing, is because you're bringing those gases into contact with the solution. And it's a very, very rapid chemical reaction where any remaining SO2 will dissolve into the water to produce sulfurous acid. Sulfurous acid barely exists as an intermediary because it oxidizes so quickly into dilute sulfuric acid.
Wow.
Then that SO3 isn't dissolving into water, it's dissolving into dilute sulfuric acid, which is a much more controlled reaction.
And when it's sucked out of the Queen's chamber, what's our final product?
The product is the dilute sulfuric acid. The product of the Great Pyramid is dilute sulfuric acid.
Which was used for what again?
Metallurgy, mining, all of these metals.
And where did it go? It went into where? Where did they collect it all?
So we'll talk about that just in a second. Where does it go?
Yeah.
And where was it collected? And the function of the entire Giza Plateau as an integrated metallurgical and metal ore extraction facility.
Okay.
So there's lots of stuff below the Giza Plateau.
Right.
Both natural features and subterranean shafts.
Okay.
So, for example, it has been corroborated by a friend of mine that works for the Ministry of Antiquities, who's intimately involved in the operations of the Giza Plateau.
Okay.
He's corroborated that there is an underground shaft that connects the Great Pyramid into the Sphinx enclosure.
Was this corroboration, is this known to the public, or is this like a secret he told you?
It's known within the alternative community, and he said it 3 times, and I have it on video from a tour where he...
And is this heresy to people in the Antiquities Administration?
No. This, I mean, people know about these things.
Okay. It's
yeah,
just,
for sure.
But it's just kind of like they don't like to talk about it.
Again, it is contrary to the conventional timeline and the pharaonic burial hypothesis that there's a connection between the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx enclosure, because the Sphinx enclosure isn't supposed to come around until later.
Got it.
As connected to the Central Pyramid.
Okay.
Which was built by Khafre, the son of Khufu. So it's a next generation. So there shouldn't be a connection between those things because it's contrary to the conventional timeline.
I understand.
Okay, so getting too deep in the weeds into the technical chemistry, but it's important to understand my hypothesis.
I understand it. Yeah.
About the chemical reaction sequence. So now we're just going to run a quick animation showing the filling process.
Fills it up, sucks it out,
sucks it into the grand gallery. We
pushes it back.
Raise the water level again. So why doesn't the air or the gas get pushed back? Because it is highly soluble in water. So as soon as you start raising the water, the gas immediately dissolves into solution. So it's not going to get pushed back because it's busy dissolving into the water.
I see.
Right? So there is nothing that's going to get pushed back. It's all going to completely dissolve into solution in the grand gallery, everything extracted from the Queen's chamber. So now let's talk about the role of the red granite and how lightning is utilized to induce an electric field in the red granite for acoustic catalysts, producing ultrasound to drive chemical reactions. Inverse piezoelectric effect. So I've mentioned this a couple of times, that when you apply voltage to a quartz crystal, it produces ultrasound vibrations. This is the exact opposite of the piezoelectric effect, where you have mechanical compression of a quartz crystal that produces voltage. It's the opposite.
Okay.
You apply voltage and it produces mechanical stress in the quartz that generates ultrasound. This is how a modern ultrasound machine works. And these systems are known as ultrasound transducers, where they're transforming voltage into ultrasound.
Wow.
Same way modern ultrasound machine works.
Okay.
So we have the red granite inside the antechamber and king's chamber of the Great Pyramid.
Yep.
So I've been suggesting that there was an electric field concentrated around these areas of the Great Pyramid that created these ultrasound vibrations in the upper cavity of the antechamber, which is well reported to have the most profound acoustic properties of the entire Great Pyramid system. The acoustics inside of the antechamber are absolutely spectacular. Mm-hmm. It is a concentration and amplification chamber that was designed to really, really focus those ultrasound vibrations within the antechamber.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the electric field. So sonochemistry is a branch of chemistry dealing with the chemical effects and applications of ultrasound waves. So again, this is just more research substantiating the idea that ultrasound can be used as a catalyst for chemical reactions. Sonochemistry is the use of ultrasound to enhance or alter chemical reactions.
Okay.
Quote coming from this paper here. Same thing. This paper is talking about how sonochemistry was known as a black art. It just so happens that chem and alchemy refers to the Egyptian black art, which is the origin of the name of my book and channel, The Land of Chem, coming from the land of Khem, the land of this black art of sonochemistry.
Right.
Okay, so let's get into this research paper showing that the Great Pyramid can focus electric fields. Electromagnetic properties of the Great Pyramid. First, multipole resonances and energy concentration. So let me describe the experimental parameters of this research study. So you see the arrow going into the top of the pyramid? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the vector of electromagnetic waves being sent into this software model of the Great Pyramid. So they created a model of the Great Pyramid in a software system called COMSOL Multiphysics. Mm-hmm. And they used electromagnetic waves as the input in the radio wavelength frequency. So that was the input, radio electromagnetic energy waves.
Okay.
Okay. When they shot these radio waves into the top of the pyramid, input of electromagnetic energy, it created concentration of electric fields. You can see there at the top right, these are electric fields being concentrated inside of the Great Pyramid. And you can see that these red areas are directly around the area of the king's chamber and antechamber.
The king's chamber is a little bit off-centered, right?
Yeah, so you can see the vertical black rectangle. That represents the king's chamber in this model.
Got it.
So we have intense concentration of electric fields when the vector is from above. That's going to be important. Again, telluric currents from below, lightning from above.
Yeah.
Everything that I have said thus far about that dual power system, telluric currents from below and lightning from above, is substantiated by this research paper.
Okay.
So next, they changed the vector from below. So what did they find? Look at the top right. You see the concentration of the electric field at the top of the Great Pyramid? It builds up and creates an intense electric field on the top of the pyramid that excludes the capstone. You see how it's flat?
Yeah.
The electric field?
Yeah.
It excludes the capstone.
Right.
The Great Pyramid never had a capstone. It's intentionally engineered using the geometric design to create this intense electric field when the input is from below. So that's why I was talking about the preface of this whole conversation about stone circles. Uptaking telluric currents from below and creating electric field accumulation. That is the exact same thing that we have in the Great Pyramid, and its ability to develop an electric field charge at the top of the structure. That electric field is the target for negatively charged cloud to ground lightning.
Whoa.
That's why it's so important for me to preface these conversations with the explanation of the stone circles, because all of the mechanisms of operation are the exact same between a stone circle using telluric currents to develop charge on the surface directly applies to the function of the Great Pyramid. So here we have it, proven in a model that the Great Pyramid, when the vector of energy introduction comes from below.
What was that vector of energy coming from below?
So they used in this model radio wave frequency electromagnetic waves.
And what was it on the pyramid?
Telluric currents and lightning. And I'll show how you could make
coming from the ground?
Yes. So telluric currents come from below in the ground, like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast.
Yes.
Telluric currents are electrical currents that move through the surface of the earth. And there is more concentration of electric currents in telluric currents in areas with these natural resources, like metal ore deposits, which is exactly what we have on the Giza Plateau. That's why the pyramids of Giza were built on top of these metal ore deposits, is to facilitate the concentration of telluric currents below the pyramids.
Got it.
For this, the charging process.
Right, okay.
The charging process creates the electric field charge at the top of the structure that is the target for negatively charged cloud-to-ground lightning.
Okay. So that charge coming from the ground would draw in more lightning strikes to the top of the pyramid.
So again, here, let me restate this. So when they change the vector of energy input coming from below, which is exactly what would happen with telluric currents coming from below the structure, they saw an intense concentration of electric fields at the top of the structure, which this positively charged electric field would be a target for negatively charged lightning.
Got it.
So the telluric currents come from below, creates this electric field accumulation at the top of the pyramid, which is a target for negatively charged cloud-to-ground lightning.
Yes.
The same process as a stone circle.
Okay.
But taken into pyramid form.
Understood.
Okay. That's why the Great Pyramid never had a capstone, because it's designed. See, the electric field completely is eliminated from there.
At the tip.
At the tip.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Again, target for negatively charged cloud-to-ground lightning. Lightning strikes the Great Pyramid. The granite is also a dielectric material, which can store these electric fields. So in this model, they used limestone with a dielectric constant of 7 for this model. Red granite actually has a dielectric constant of 9, which means it's a little bit better at storing electric fields than limestone. So this is ideal for the configuration of these components.
Okay.
That electric field around the King's chamber and antechamber induces the inverse piezoelectric effect in the granite. This is how it's activated.
Right.
You have to input energy into the system. That energy is coming from telluric currents and lightning that generates an intense electric field around the King's chamber and antechamber that creates this inverse piezoelectric effect. We run the process again. The sulfur dioxide is drawn into the antechamber that has these profound electric field induced ultrasound waves. That ultrasound is going to convert the sulfur dioxide and oxygen into sulfur trioxide that is then drawn. Again, it's possible that there's residual sulfur dioxide. Don't get too caught up on that.
Sure.
But again, there's intermediary chemical reaction.
The lightning is all about the antechamber.
Correct. Creating the electric field surrounding the red granite components.
Okay.
This is just, again, corroboration of this intermediary step where sulfurous acid is generated first, sulfur dioxide dissolving into water to create sulfurous acid. Sulfurous acid will immediately oxidize into dilute sulfuric acid. That is what it says right here.
Okay. And the pyramid can be charged with the stuff without being constantly bombarded by lightning, right?
Correct. It's all cyclical. Okay. So the whole process is integrated into the Giza Plateau cumulonimbus thunderstorm generator system.
Yeah.
So the entire process takes time.
Right.
It's not 24/7.
Okay.
Again, the premise of my hypothesis is that all of these ancient technologies work in conjunction with the forces of nature.
Right.
Nature is a cyclical process.
So it produces it.
It takes time to generate the storm.
Yeah.
It takes time to generate the charge. And when the timing is right, they knew using mechanisms
they're using the weather to milk the earth of this crazy chemical that they're using to create metal.
Sure.
Something like that.
And we actually found it's like a whistle mechanism on the Giza Plateau in the western field of the Great Pyramid. There's these huge whistle-like formations that when the wind was exactly right, it would create a whistle on the Giza Plateau.
Wow.
And I've shown that in some Sunday site visits.
Holy
where
shit.
they were able to hear when the wind changed the correct direction, and they knew exactly when this was about to happen.
Whoa.
By using these whistle. It's like a pipe organ. It's the shape of a pipe organ.
So they would know when
So they knew.
happen.
Yeah, using
That's
these
insane,
whistles,
bro.
these industrial whistle formations.
Wow.
Yeah, that's, again, go check out my Sunday site visit investigating the western field adjacent to the Great Pyramid.
Okay.
To see these pipe organ type features.
Okay.
That were whistles, that were indicators of when this was going to happen. So I'll speed through the rest of this.
We are 5 hours in.
Yeah. we got to get to the SAR stuff.
Yes,
So
let's
give
do
me
it.
30 more minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me grab it. I'm gonna grab an energy drink real quick.
Yeah.
I need to fucking power up.
Okay, so here is a simple modification to this experimental system that we could change the input vectors. By using this exact same software model, you could change the input vector from radio wavelength electromagnetic waves to voltage from telluric currents coming from below. And we could see exactly what would happen by changing the input vector. It's a simple modification of the experiment that could be used to test this hypothesis about the development of the positive electric field charge at the top of the pyramid when telluric currents are involved.
Yes.
Simple change of the experiment. So here you could also add in the Giza iron veins into the experimental model and see what happens with the telluric current flow through the earth into the Great Pyramid to develop this positive charge at the top. Again, the target for lightning. As above, so below. We could also change the input vector from above. Again, instead of shooting, I don't know why they chose radio waves, but instead of using these low energy electromagnetic radio waves, we could input high voltage electricity as the input vector in the software and see what happens. Again, let's do it in the model where we build it on the Giza Plateau. We input high voltage from lightning, and we'll see how much electric field concentration we get with high voltage input instead of radio waves. Simple modification to the experiment that would test this hypothesis. So somebody that has access to COMSOL multiphysics and knows an engineer that can work the software, somebody holler at me because we could very easily model this entire system in COMSOL multiphysics, which is a great piece of software for doing this sort of experimental testing. Okay, so let's run it back. We're filling the system. We're introducing sulfur dioxide into the chamber. Now here, this lightning strike does not represent lightning striking the king's chamber. It represents lightning striking the top of the pyramid and electric field flowing through the structure.
Okay.
It's just symbolic.
Sure.
Because I can't put it any other way.
I get it.
The lightning is striking the top of the pyramid and it's inducing this electric field in the areas surrounding the king's chamber. Again, these are all dielectric materials that have the capacity for storing electric fields. That's how a battery works. That's how a capacitor works. So here we have an illustration of the electric field surging through the red granite king's chamber and antechamber that was shown in this model, inducing the inverse piezoelectric effect, this acoustic catalyst that converts our sulfur dioxide into sulfur trioxide.
Okay.
We then do the reaction as we've previously shown. And here's from the very beginning, running all the way through, electric field from lightning, creating the acoustic catalyst and the sulfur trioxide, abbreviated version, being pulled into the grand gallery, everything being extracted from the queen's chamber. So let's talk about the queen's chamber. So the queen's chamber, these shafts.
Gattenbrink's door.
So the inside of the queen's chamber shafts were never open to the inside of the chamber, completely sealed with stone.
Yes.
They had to break through these things,
Yep.
breaking through anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of stone to break into these shafts. They were never open to the inside of the chamber.
What type of stone?
It's limestone.
It's limestone.
Correct, yeah.
And can liquid or acid get through that limestone?
No.
Cannot.
No.
That's a fact.
No. The limestone of the Great Pyramid is not permeable. And when you have acid in conjunction with limestone, it is going to create a chemical reaction that is going to gradually dissolve away the limestone. And the chemical analysis data from the salt deposits inside of the Queen's Chamber actually corroborate my hypothesis about the presence of sulfuric acid. And I'll talk about that chemical reaction here in just a second.
Okay.
So they had to break through this solid limestone to get into these shafts. These are just some pictures of what it looks like today.
And we drilled. There was a big TV show made about the moment they drilled through it. It was Zahi sitting there.
Yep.
And they put a little camera through the door, the gate and rinks door at the top end.
Yep.
There was a stone block in it. They drilled through it and they found a little chamber in there.
Yeah, correct. And I'll talk about my hypothesis for those copper prongs that they found embedded in the stone that they drilled through.
Yep.
It's an ultrasound transducer, all connected to ultrasound.
I knew it.
Yeah. Okay, so this is an image of calcium sulfate. This was actually taken from inside of the bent pyramid. But in Christopher Dunn's work, he talks about the chemical analysis. And please understand, I have the utmost respect for Christopher Dunn. He is the godfather of alternative theories about the function of the Great Pyramid. Just because I disagree with him doesn't mean I'm speaking negatively about him in any way. I want people to understand that.
Right.
His work was the inspiration for me going to Egypt the first time. And I disagree with some of his things. He would probably disagree with some of my stuff, and that's fine. But if we're having a discourse about the function of the pyramids, it's going to come up that we talk about his work because he's the man. Right. He was the first person to try to tackle this.
Totally.
And I have a lot of respect for him because it takes a lot of courage to risk your reputation to talk about the function of the pyramids. It's career suicide to do that. Right. If you're a reputable engineer and you're talking about the function of the pyramid, everybody's going to think you're nuts. But he was the first person to really propose a step-by-step. I'm a stickler, clearly, about step-by-step operations.
Yes.
Step 1 has to lead to step 2. Step 2 has to lead to step 3. And it all has to work in a sequence.
And he inspired a lot of people to look deeper into this stuff.
Including myself. Right. But
so shout out to Chris Dunn.
So shout out Chris Dunn. But here in his book, he published the chemical analysis data that was taken in 1978 of the salt coating inside of the Queen's Chamber. So it's calcium carbonate from the limestone, sodium chloride from salt, and calcium sulfate. If there was hydrochloric acid inside of anywhere in the Queen's Chamber, we would have calcium chloride. That is the chemical reaction that occurs between calcium carbonate limestone and hydrochloric acid produces calcium chloride.
Okay.
But we don't have any calcium chloride.
Didn't he say there was a residue of something else in the Grand Gallery, on the walls of the Grand Gallery?
Calcium sulfate.
Calcium sulfate.
Is what they discovered all over the walls.
Of the Grand Gallery.
Correct. Which is direct evidence of the presence of dilute sulfuric acid because of the chemical reaction that occurs between calcium carbonate and sulfuric acid produces calcium sulfate.
Wow.
That is where this calcium sulfate comes from. And we have chemical analysis data showing calcium sulfate, which is a direct result of dilute sulfuric acid and the limestone. So why does this happen? And why would they because it's a vitriolic reaction. Acids are going to dissolve stone. But there's something very special about calcium sulfate salt. And this is calcium sulfate anhydrite, which looks like what is found all over the inside of the Grand Gallery. This solid salt. So there's a very unique chemical reaction that happens between sulfuric acid and limestone that once the calcium sulfate salt is formed, it stops the reaction. So the calcium, so when you have dilute sulfuric acid filling the Queen's Chamber.
Protects it.
Exactly. There is a chemical reaction that occurs between the dilute sulfuric acid and the calcium carbonate that produces calcium sulfate salt.
Right.
Once that calcium sulfate salt forms, it stops the reaction because calcium sulfate is insoluble in dilute sulfuric acid. So you end up with calcium carbonate coated with a layer of calcium sulfate, which stops the acid from getting at the carbonate and stops the reaction. That's a quote.
Right.
So that explains the presence of the calcium sulfate. And it also is evidence of a self-creating, self-sustaining, chemically resistant coating compound that formed on the inside of the limestone chambers that protected the limestone from the reaction. Mind-blowing stuff. The chemistry and the knowledge involved in this system.
It's insane.
So let's say that the calcium sulfate chips off. The limestone would be re-exposed. The dilute sulfuric acid would react and create another coating. There are pits. There are little pit holes all over the Queen's chamber. Little tiny divots in the walls.
Yeah.
All over the Queen's chamber. That is evidence of this exact process happening, where some of the salt chipped off, the reaction occurred more, it dissolved away a little bit of the limestone, creating these tiny pits all over the Queen's chamber.
God damn
the calcium sulfate being direct evidence of dilute sulfuric acid being the product of the pyramid structure. Okay, so Gattenbrink's door. The things with the copper wires in it.
The copper probes that hang down off the door.
So this block that they drilled through is actually not core limestone masonry. It's Tura limestone. Tura limestone is the same type of limestone that was used for the casing stone. And Tura limestone has a much higher, you see here, the blocking slab appears to be made from Tura limestone. Tura limestone has a much higher quartz content than regular bedrock limestone from the Giza Plateau. So they use this high quartz content limestone to induce the inverse piezoelectric effect as an ultrasound transducer that was an ultrasound flow meter. Ultrasound flow meters are non-invasive, which means they do not connect to the inside of the pipe, which is exactly what we have in the configuration of the Queen's chamber, where those shafts do not connect to the inside of the chamber. So as that electric field was induced inside of that Tura limestone, the copper prongs facilitating the electric field concentration in that piece of Tura. That's why those copper prongs are there. They're electrically conductive. So they're drawing that electric field into that piece of Tura limestone. So what we have here, let's take this ultrasound flow meter. The inside of the flow meter does not go to the inside of the chamber. We're going to turn it like this, apply it to the configuration of the Queen's chamber, and this is our ultrasound flow meter with an ultrasonic transducer inside of the southern shaft. So as the water level was...
But wait, doesn't one of them like go all the way around the Grand Gallery?
It does.
Like weirdly?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
So this hypothesis, so I did this just for fun because I like to speculate on stuff that we don't know. This hypothesis is contingent on the exploration of the northern shaft, which is coming up soon.
Which will lead to the big void, right?
Those are two separate things.
Okay.
Yeah. So if they go into this northern shaft and they stick camera over the blocking stone, if there's more metal components inside of there, that would be the receiving end of this ultrasound flow meter. So basically what is happening is the ultrasound flow meter can monitor the level of the solution inside of the chamber and time the extraction process. So an ultrasound signal is sent from the southern shaft into the solution that could possibly be received on the northern end. Again, this is
detecting how much solution is in there?
Correct. It's a flow meter.
Wow.
An ultrasound transducer flow meter that's never meant to connect to the inside of the chamber. Again, this is all contingent on the exploration of the northern shaft. I proposed this hypothesis just for fun.
Yeah.
And I talked with Matt about this because he's involved in the exploration of the northern shaft. And I made a prediction that if they find some metal components in there, that is evidence of this hypothesis on the receiving end of the ultrasound transducer flow meter. So let's breeze through to the next component, the big void. So the reaction inside of the Grand Gallery is extremely exothermic, creating a ton of heat energy.
Yeah.
And in our modern systems, we have heat exchangers that are usually filled with water that are utilized to remove some of the excess heat energy from the system. This big void is in the perfect location inside of the Great Pyramid for a heat exchanger. So you would simply fill this thing with water, and it would remove some of that heat energy from the system.
How would you put water in it?
Fill shafts. Same thing as the external pump mechanisms. No, so this is, again, speculative.
Okay.
We have no idea what is inside of this void.
Okay.
And I did this one just for fun as well, because I like to speculate and propose hypotheses for things that we haven't explored yet.
Sure.
So this big void is most likely a completely empty space, not even a chamber. So let me give you some predictions. 70% it's completely empty, and it's just a hollow cavity inside of the pyramid. They left the cavity empty from an engineering and architectural perspective because you don't want a bunch of weight pressing down on a diagonally oriented chamber. The Great Pyramid is the only pyramid that has a diagonal chamber like that.
Oh.
And it's not a very good idea from an architectural or engineering standpoint that you have a bunch of weight pressing down on that diagonal chamber. So it would make sense that the engineers left a big cavity above this chamber to reduce the weight stress. So 70%, it's a completely empty cavity, not even a chamber. 29.99999%, it's a heat exchanger, which is a chamber, an actual manufactured chamber that may have an inlet or outlet shaft from the top where that heat energy will convert steam. The water will transform into steam, and it comes out of the top as steam, or it'll come out the bottom as hot water. So that's 70% empty cavity just from an architectural and engineering standpoint to reduce the weight on top of the diagonal chamber. Makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
29.9999% heat exchanger. It's going to be an empty chamber, but an actual chamber, not just an empty space, an actual chamber that either has a shaft from the top or the shaft from the bottom.
When are they supposed to explore this?
2026, coming up very soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how are they going to do it? Like a little tiny camera?
Yeah, yeah. Robot going up the northern shaft and drilling into the big void from the circumvented tunnel at the back of the antechamber is going to be the access point into
wow.
Yeah, so it's very complicated, and it's a very good reason why it's taking a long time.
And it's already approved by
Already
Egypt?
approved, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Matt Bell, shout out Matt from the Limitless podcast. He's been involved in the development of the robot technology, and he's going to be involved in the exploration of both of these systems.
I told him he also has to go find that UFO in the labyrinth.
Yeah.
You need to pull that fucking saucer out.
Right. Good luck. We talked about that labyrinth stuff last night at dinner, and we'll get into the SAR stuff now. But anyway, so 70% empty cavity, 29.99999% heat exchanger.
Yes.
0.00001% it has anything to do with the burial of Khufu.
Right.
0.00001% that they find Khufu in there.
Right.
Okay, so that's the function of the big void. Central pyramid. I'm not going to talk about this too long. It converts the sulfuric acid into hydrochloric acid by reacting it with sodium chloride. Sodium chloride deposits, NaCl, table salt, was found all over the inside of the central pyramid primary reaction chamber. Chemical analysis data proves everything. That's why I'm such a stickler about the chemical analysis data. It proves that there was catalyst material inside of the red pyramid. The exact same catalysts that were required to drive all of these chemical reactions. Calcium sulfate inside the Great Pyramid is a direct indication of my hypothesis that there was dilute sulfuric acid in there. The sodium chloride deposits inside the central pyramid are also evidence of this conversion and reaction between sulfuric acid and sodium chloride that produced hydrogen chloride gas and extracted as hydrochloric acid inside of the central pyramid. So this is important. Let's look at the configuration of the central pyramid here. You see all those hash mark areas?
Yeah.
Those are areas of the structure that are excavated from the bedrock. The depth of these chambers is no more than 10 to 15 meters into the bedrock. This is going to be super important in just a minute. So I'll skip through the applications of the hydrochloric acid. A quick touch on the iron veins, because I know we want to get to the SAR stuff, but this is talking about Robert Schoch investigating the iron veins, whether or not they are vitrification and Lichtenberg patterns from a huge plasma strike on the Giza Plateau. And he also talks about, this is actually from the Sphinx Stela that talks about lightning striking the Giza Plateau, striking the Sphinx and striking the Sycamore Grove. It's actually recorded in the Sphinx Stela that lightning was striking the Giza Plateau. Interesting historical anecdote that corroborates the idea. So Robert Schoch, basically in this article, is talking whether it's lightning or hydrothermal mineralization, these iron vein formations. These things go hand in hand, right? And we have chemical analysis data from these iron veins that is indicative of hydrothermal mineral deposits. But we also have fulgurites that were found in these iron veins that show that there was high voltage current moving through these veins that caused the vitrification features that are talked about by Schoch. So the heat and the high voltage caused this iron oxide to melt. And we see those melted formations all over the Giza Plateau. This also produced the fulgurites. So these are some of the samples that were collected from all over the Giza Plateau. We have samples from into these quote unquote boat pits. This is me standing in one of these iron deposits and me standing in one of the boat pits where there's this huge tubular iron vein. These iron veins are all over the Giza Plateau. They have all sorts of rare earth metals. Again, we talked about the nickel, tin, lead, platinum, you name the metal, it is in these iron deposits, including stuff like neodymium. This one has neodymium.
What the fuck is that?
What you use for very strong magnets. You ever heard of neodymium magnet?
Nope.
Yeah, so they use neodymium, rare earth. We currently have a big industry for mining rare earths.
Right.
All of these rare earth metals are found on the Giza Plateau in the iron veins.
Wow.
So this one has thorium, neodymium, cerium, and lanthanum. We found very small concentrations of radioactive elements like thorium in there. This one is silver. These ones are silver and gold. We also found these fulgurite silicate microspheres in one of these boat pits in the chemical analysis of these iron veins, these silica microspheres. These iron veins also go down into the Osiris shaft. So the picture that you're about to see is in the housings on the second level of the Osiris shaft, huge iron veins connecting directly into the Osiris shaft. These iron veins connect all of the features around the Giza Plateau, sending this high voltage electricity into different components to induce electric fields. Everything is about earth electricity providing the power source that drives these systems to induce electric fields within systems like the Osiris shaft that was utilizing those electric fields and ultrasound to produce metal nanoparticles. A great way to separate and extract different metals. Here are iron veins down in the subterranean shaft of the Great Pyramid. This is the bedrock excavated chamber of the Central Pyramid. Here in the corner of the wall, you see that where the flashlight is shining at that vein.
Yeah.
That's an iron vein that's been carved out and patched over with modern concrete.
Jeez.
Inside the bedrock of the Central Pyramid primary reaction chamber. So I've actually mapped these. And I have an extensive series on my channel showing the mapping process of these iron veins across the Giza Plateau. They start in the core of the Central Pyramid and the Great Pyramid, and they branch out and connect various features all around the Giza Plateau. This is a literal map that I've developed over probably a dozen different expeditions to the Giza Plateau, showing in the footage that I have on my channel this map of the iron veins connecting all of these structures. So I'm going to breeze through this real quick because I want to get to the function of these iron veins and the function of the boat pits, which is circuit breakers. So the boat pits are excavated into the bedrock so that they interrupt the veins. They are a break in the iron wiring network. They are circuit breakers. And we have chemical analysis from the boat pits adjacent to the Great Pyramid and the boat pits adjacent to the Central Pyramid that show that there was dilute sulfuric acid in the pits around the Great Pyramid and dilute hydrochloric acid in the pits around the Central Pyramid. Both of these are electrolytic solutions that are very good conductors of electricity. So these boat pits were filled with these respective solutions of dilute sulfuric acid and dilute hydrochloric acid to activate the circuit breaker system. So I'll show you a diagram here. Okay. Great Pyramid. You see the boat pits?
Yeah.
Here are the boat pits.
Okay.
Okay. The iron veins lead directly into the boat pits.
And how deep are these iron veins roughly?
They're right on the surface.
Right on the surface.
Yeah. So they lead directly into the boat pits. I've mapped this extensively, and I've shown it in numerous episodes where I'm physically documenting everything I'm showing here. So the iron veins run into the boat pits. The boat pits interrupt the network.
Yeah.
They interrupt the wires.
Yep.
Breaks in the wires.
Sure.
So same thing over here. Adjacent to the central pyramid, we have all these boat pits. The iron veins connect directly into the boat pits and go to various areas of the Giza Plateau. So to close the circuit breakers, you have to fill the boat pits with this electrolyte solution.
Yep.
Again, we've had chemical analysis from inside of these boat pits that show sulfate compounds in the boat pits adjacent to the Great Pyramid and chloride compounds in the boat pits adjacent to the Central Pyramid. This is also chemical analysis corroboration of my hypothesis of dilute sulfuric acid being produced in the Great Pyramid because these sulfates are only found in the pits adjacent to the Great Pyramid. The chlorides that are produced by hydrochloric acid reacting with the calcium carbonate limestone are found exclusively around the Central Pyramid. So by pouring, and there I've shown these channels that run directly into the boat pits, which were channels that allowed the flow of the sulfuric acid and hydrochloric acid to be introduced into the boat pits.
It's like another big circuit breaker.
It's a circuit breaker. It's 100% a massive circuit breaker that controlled the allocation of voltage to specific areas around the Giza Plateau, exactly like what you have in your house.
And where do you think they ended up at? Like, what were those, like...
It goes down into all sorts of structures, like the Osiris shaft. It connects into the satellite pyramids. It connects into the mastabas in the eastern field. It connects down into the Sphinx Temple. It connects down into the Great Pyramid Valley Temple. It connects into the final pyramid. It connects into the Kenkawes structure. It connects down into the Kenkawes Industrial Distribution Center. It connects everything across the Giza Plateau that are linked by these iron veins, with the boat pits being circuit breakers that control the allocation of voltage into different areas of the Giza Plateau.
Wow.
All right.
Who's this gentleman?
That's me, my lovely wife, Alexa. Shout out Alexa from Ancient Odysseys.
Shout out Alexa.
Also, please go subscribe to our other channels. Let's Go with Lex and G, which is
you have a cat channel.
I also have a cat channel.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Egyptian Trash Cats.
I love it,
For
dude.
all you cat lovers out there.
Do you have shirts for that? I need a cat shirt.
Yeah, we do have Egyptian Trash Cat merch, which is my face and my orange street cat Bert. It's awesome. And yes, we do have Egyptian Trash Cats merch. But go subscribe to Let's Go with Lex and G, which are our travel and adventure channel and culinary food ratings. We just did a short on the Violet Stone pizza and cheesesteaks here in Tampa. Really, really good. And then, of course, my cat channel, Egyptian Trash Cats, linked in all of my videos. Okay, SAR stuff. This is us with Filippo Biondi.
Yes.
At the Malta conference, which was their first international press conference where they officially released all of the newest scan data.
Which was when?
That was early 2025. It was this year.
This year.
Yeah.
Beginning of this year.
Yeah. We were there not in the summer. Man, I would have
How
to.
did you
my
get,
wife would know. I'm sure she's yelling at me.
How did he meet you? How did he discover you? How did you
they
get
knew
invited?
about my work.
And they just reached out
from my videos.
Cold outreach, say, hey, come to my conference.
I know the guys that organized the conference, which were previous tour guests on one of my Land of Chem tours.
Okay.
The SAR team, I've been following these guys' work since 2022.
Okay.
When they published their first paper on the Great Pyramid. And I've done a series of videos talking about both the positives and the negatives that I've seen in their research. And this is not intended as a debunking, but there is a lot of hype around these scans. And as someone who focuses exclusively on the function of the pyramids, where the chamber configuration is of the utmost importance to me, I see some major problems with the SAR data. And they know about this. I have direct communication with Filippo and Armando. I've spoken about this publicly in numerous videos, and the following is not intended as a debunking, nor am I trying to discredit any of their research.
And we should tell people that you were explaining to me last night, you're not only in open communication with them back and forth, but he is taking all your input graciously.
Right. And that's one of the reasons that I was invited to attend the Malta conference, is because they knew about my analysis of the data and they wanted to hear my critical interpretation of their results so that they can better present it to the public.
Right.
So again, this isn't a debunking. I'm not trying to discredit these guys. I really, really like both Armando and Filippo. And I didn't get a chance to meet Corrado Malanga, but he's the third member of the team, and he was there virtually giving his input into the function of the Great Pyramid. That's his part of the SAR team.
Got it.
It's 3 people: Filippo Biondi, Armando Mei, and Corrado Malanga.
And this guy's background is what?
He is the software developer.
He's the software developer
that developed the system that is known as the Biondi Protocol, which uses existing SAR technology, synthetic aperture radar technology, with a new software system that interprets micro vibrations on the surface of structures and the differences in those micro vibrations, and interprets them as evidence of internal structures.
Doppler tomography.
Yes. And I'm going to quote a lot of things directly from their research so that this isn't coming as my interpretation.
Okay.
This is 100% directly coming from them specifically.
Okay. So
I like these guys.
They're
I
the
really
only
do.
guys that have done SAR combined with Doppler tomography.
Combined with the software developed by Filippo that is used in conjunction with existing SAR radar technology. SAR technology is not new.
Right.
And it is well vetted SAR technology. What is new and novel about the approach is using SAR technology, which cannot penetrate structures.
Right.
Period.
Right.
What they're doing is using this new Biondi protocol, is what he calls it, and they're interpreting micro vibrations. They call them phonons.
Yes.
Acoustic signatures and micro vibrations on the surface of the structure. And the differences in these acoustic micro vibrations allow them to image inside of structures.
Right. To go deeper.
Correct. So that's the premise of their research, is using this new Biondi protocol to image inside of structures using existing satellite synthetic aperture radar technology.
And he has used this same stuff to do other things, to image inside of like underground bases,
several structures, and I have all that
commercial mining stuff.
Correct, yeah,
and as well as top secret military stuff, allegedly.
Yes, I have images of all that.
Oh, dude,
and I'll show you the images.
Okay,
directly from their Malta conference.
Oh, wow. Okay,
so this is their latest research that has all of their proof of concept scans. So what they're doing is trying to establish proof of concept, demonstrations that the technology itself is viable for imaging ancient structures by using it on modern structures.
Okay.
Proof of concept.
Right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So this is an image of their raw scan data.
Okay.
Of their scanning of the central pyramid. And take a good look at how this looks. This is the raw scan data.
So this would be like looking at, what am I looking at here?
Right, exactly.
What angle is this?
Exactly. Good point. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the internal configuration of the central pyramid. This. We just talked about the configuration of the central pyramid.
So it's the same angle as this?
Correct. They're showing this.
Okay.
The big problem with this raw scan data is it does not show anywhere the known configuration of the structure. These chambers that we know exist, excavated from the bedrock below the central pyramid, do not show up anywhere on these scans.
So it's lined up exactly with that drawing that you showed?
Similar, yes.
So they're somehow using satellites to give you, they're using a top-down satellite, I'm just looking straight down at the Earth, to somehow give you a horizontal plane view.
So the satellite goes in trajectory over the structure.
Right.
It's called a
fast.
tomographic line.
Okay.
So the satellite is going around the Earth.
Yep.
And every time it makes a pass over the structure, it's doing what they call tomographic imaging, the slice of the structure that they're looking at.
Yeah.
It does a pass over the pyramid, and it images the pyramid during the arc of the satellite over the structure.
Got it. So it's taking a slice straight down through it.
Correct.
Okay.
A tomographic line
Got
is
it.
the nomenclature that Filippo Biondi uses to describe this process. The slice that it's looking at.
Yes.
Okay? That's important when we'll talk about their raw scan data of the Great Pyramid. So in this raw data of the Central Pyramid, they are unable to detect the known chambers. They made a public statement admitting that they are unable to detect the known chambers.
So it says Khafre Research Project SAR. This is posted by them.
From their Facebook
Detection
page.
issues related to the known structures inside the pyramid of Khafre. Satellite data only reveal the entrance, the descending corridor, and the roof of Belzoni's chamber. This is because these structures are embedded in a limestone slab that absorbs the signal. Okay.
Okay, so this is a huge problem.
So what are these images down here?
So those are their depictions of this so-called limestone slab below the Central Pyramid. There is no limestone slab below the Central Pyramid. It is bedrock. It is Giza Plateau bedrock below the Central Pyramid.
Okay.
And the chambers of the Central Pyramid, with the exception, again, we showed this diagram here a minute ago, showing the hash marks. Those are areas that are excavated directly from the bedrock. The areas that don't have hash marks, for example, the roof of the chamber, that small section of the passage,
Yep.
and the upper descending shaft are actual core masonry
Got it.
of the structure.
I see.
Okay, so this is why it's super important to understand the known configuration and compare it to their raw scan data. Okay, so what they're saying here is they cannot detect the known chambers in limestone bedrock because the limestone bedrock absorbs the radar signal.
Ah, right.
Okay, these chambers are at a depth of no more than 15 meters in limestone bedrock.
What's that to feet?
So they can't detect known chambers that are excavated in bedrock, the same bedrock that's all over the Giza Plateau.
Yes.
They can't detect something in 15 meters of bedrock because the limestone absorbs the signal.
What is 15 meters to feet? I'm an idiot when it comes to the translation.
So 45 feet.
45 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
So these
times
chambers
15,
underneath
45.
the middle pyramid are roughly 45 feet into the bedrock.
Correct.
And it's not showing on their scan.
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
Their explanation for this is because this limestone, quote, absorbs the signal.
Yep.
This is a huge issue. How can they detect something that is a kilometer in the same bedrock if they can't detect what we know is there in 15 meters of bedrock?
Maybe the chambers are too small.
The chambers that they detected in the Great Pyramid, for example, I'll go through their Great Pyramid scans.
Okay.
And I'll show that they were able to, on occasion, detect the Queen's chamber, which is smaller than the primary chamber inside the central pyramid.
Okay.
So they were able to detect small chambers.
Interesting. All right, what do we got
So again,
next?
I'm just presenting the data that they have shown us now.
Yes, got
And
it.
as somebody whose basically entire life is focused on the known configuration of these chambers, if you're coming to the table with a new technology that cannot detect what we know is there, how is this a viable technology for detecting stuff that we don't know is there?
Did you ask Filippo about this?
100%.
What did he say?
It's on camera in both my Malta conference video and Jay Anderson, shout out Jay, Project Unity. We both filmed the whole conference.
Yeah.
And I asked Filippo a number of times about these detection issues. His answer, I don't know, which was an honest answer.
Yes.
And it's a mark of his integrity
Yes.
and his honesty to say, if you ask me a question about the function of the pyramids,
Don't try to make some shit up.
I will tell
Right.
you, I don't know. And there's been a number of times in this
That means
conversation
he's being honest, right?
when I've said that I don't know. I would never claim
Right.
to have all the answers.
Totally.
And again, I'm not trying to debunk this, but there's some big problems. This being number one, them saying, directly quoting, that the radar is absorbed in this limestone.
Yeah.
So how can it go and read something a kilometer deep if it's absorbed in the exact same type of limestone at a depth of 15 meters?
I agree.
Big
Yeah.
problem.
I understand. Yep.
So we need answers on this. That's my only point about this subject.
Okay.
So they also,
Can you go back to that scan again, the
yes,
colorful one?
of course, because this is going to come up again, the actual raw scan
So
data.
what is the red supposed to be?
Okay, so the red is these possibly hidden structures that they are detecting above the Belzoni chamber. So this chamber over on the left is known as the Belzoni chamber. This image is showing their raw scan data above the Belzoni chamber,
Okay.
showing these possible hidden features.
So the red should be pockets.
Basically, they are saying that the red are chambers.
Got it.
That's what they're saying.
Got it.
Above the Belzoni chamber
Okay.
in the central pyramid. Directly above the Belzoni chamber.
Definitely interesting.
Okay? So this goes back to the search for hidden chambers in the central pyramid, where in the 1970s, they scanned this same area above the Belzoni chamber using muon scanning technology. The same technology that they used to discover the big void above the Grand Gallery in the Great Pyramid. This is vetted scanning technology that we know works. Muon scanning technology. The Scan Pyramid team
Yes.
that discovered the big void.
Yes.
They use muon scanning technology.
Okay.
The same muon technology was used in the central pyramid. The structure of the second pyramid of Giza is determined by cosmic ray absorption. This muon technology uses cosmic rays to detect internal chambers.
Whoa.
And it's a vetted technology for imaging the inside of structures.
Okay.
They scanned the same area above the Belzoni chamber and they found nothing.
Okay.
Using vetted muon imaging technology.
Would muon be able to detect into the bedrock?
I don't know about bedrock, but they do use it for the inside of pyramids to image these structures.
Got it.
I'm not sure about bedrock,
Okay.
but here in this instance, we're talking about the area above the Belzoni chamber. So here at the center, right, that's the Belzoni chamber.
Okay.
The SAR team is saying that they've discovered evidence of chambers directly above the Belzoni chamber.
Okay.
Well, in the 1970s, they used this muon technology to scan the same area directly above the Belzoni chamber, and they didn't find anything. The quote here, "We therefore conclude that no chambers of the size seen in the 4 large pyramids of the 4th dynasty are located in our field of view above the Belzoni chamber.
Okay.
So they scanned approximately 19% of the volume of the total pyramid located directly above the Belzoni chamber.
Got it.
So about 20% of the volume.
Okay.
In this exact same area where this SAR team is saying they are discovering evidence of hidden chambers.
Okay.
So there's an issue here where the vetted scanning technology is not being corroborated by this team. So there's a disconnect there between this vetted muon technology that we know for sure can detect internal chambers because it found the big void. Mm-hmm. They've corroborated the existence of the big void. So we have physical evidence that this big void exists. Mm-hmm. This muon technology didn't find anything above the Belzoni chamber. Okay. So there's a disconnect there.
Did these guys use their technology to scan the Great Pyramid?
Yes.
What did it look like?
And I'll show you that in just a minute. So this is their...
Quit teasing me, Geoffrey.
Well, it's a process. And I promised you that I would go through this step by step.
Yes.
And show you all of the evidence that they have presented.
Okay.
So that you can make, and the viewers can make, an objective interpretation of this.
Can I pee real quick?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. We'll be right back, folks.
Yeah. So again, shout out to my lovely wife, Alexa. Her channel name is actually Archaeoalchemy. She changed it from the previous name that I mentioned, Archaeoalchemy. And she just stuck her head in here and said it was June because she knows the dates. The wives always know the dates.
That you were here.
June 2025, a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was beautiful. Malta is spectacular.
I bet.
And we investigated the Hypogeum and a number of ancient structures in Malta. Fascinating place. So this is them during the Malta conference presenting all of these new scans of the area above the Belzoni chamber in the Central Pyramid.
Okay.
Just showing the new scan data. But as I mentioned, I've been covering this since 2022 when they published their first scan and paper of the Great Pyramid. So my interest in this team's work goes back several years, way before the hype that's going on now about these new Central Pyramid scans.
Okay.
So this is their first paper. Synthetic aperture radar, Doppler tomography detects undiscovered high-resolution internal structures of the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Interesting.
So let me quote one thing here.
Okay.
One problem with synthetic aperture radar is that given the limited penetrating effect of the electromagnetic waves inside solids, the capability to image inside distributed targets is excluded. So this is basically saying existing SAR technology cannot penetrate solid objects, so it is unable to image inside of the respective target. This is a quote directly from their research paper. And again, the whole point of the new stuff that they are doing is this Biondi Protocol. So under these circumstances, again, I'm quoting directly from the paper here. Under these circumstances, imaging activity is only given on the surface of a distributed target. This paper describes an imaging approach based on the investigation of micro movements on the Khnum Khufu pyramid, usually generated by background seismic waves. Okay. So they're using this Biondi protocol and his proprietary software to
translate what's inside.
To interpret micro vibrations on the surface of the structure. Okay, so again, the radar signal cannot penetrate the object, period.
Yes.
It is the new software that they are using, this Biondi protocol, that interprets these micro movements on the surface as indicative of internal chambers.
Got it. I understand.
Okay. So they say here, again, using the quote, that it becomes transparent like a crystal. So when you make a claim like transparent like a crystal, I would expect to see something that is transparent like a crystal. So now let's walk through their first paper. They make two statements here that the Great Pyramid of Giza is built from granite blocks. First in the introduction, second in the Giza Plateau presentation and description. They say the Pyramid of Khnum Khufu is a monumental structure built mainly of granite blocks.
Okay, that's the first mess up.
That's not true.
Right.
It's made of limestone,
Right.
with the exception of the granite inside the king's chamber and antechamber.
Right. That's the only granite in the whole pyramid.
Inside the Great Pyramid, correct.
The Great Pyramid.
So we could chalk that up to maybe translation.
Right.
Because these guys are Italian.
Right.
Maybe they used the
and this
wrong
was translated
word.
into English.
But this is an academically published paper.
Right.
If you're going to present this revolutionary new technology, it's super important to have the technical details correct when it comes to the configuration of the known structure. It's not made of granite. It's made of mostly limestone. Okay, so here's their first images of their scans of the Great Pyramid. Here on the right is the raw scan
This
data.
screenshot is from their paper?
Directly from their paper. All of this comes directly from their published material.
Like they overlaid that
Correct.
with that? Wow.
Correct. On the left is a diagram of the Great Pyramid.
You got to give it to them. They're at least not trying to fake it and make it look better than it really is. Like,
Sure. But if you look here, look on the raw scan data on the right.
yeah.
Where is
I
the
don't know what
King's
the fuck I'm
Chamber?
looking at. No, there's nothing.
Where
There's
is the
nothing.
Grand Gallery? Where is the subterranean chamber?
There's the only thing that I can see that matches up with the pyramid on the left is the right side edge of the exterior of the pyramid.
Yeah, kind of.
Like where it meets the air.
But if you look at the overlay on the left, you can see the signature goes outside of the structure and into the air.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the background.
Right. So like on the right, you see the dark blue, which would be like
Correct.
the air.
Yes.
And then it changes. That's the pyramid, the outer
That is
surface
the
of the
edge
pyramid.
of the pyramid.
Yeah.
And you can see that on the diagram on the left, where the differentiation between the blue and the red shows the slope angle of the outside of the pyramid.
Which is limestone.
But if you look at the core, you see here on the left, there is a highlighted area around the Queen's Chamber. On the left, on the diagram, there's a little area of image showing the signature of the Queen's Chamber.
Yep. Totally.
But there's nothing around the King's Chamber, and there's nothing around the Grand Gallery or the subterranean
Well, couldn't
chamber.
one be the King's Chamber? Number one up there? The kind of like that little blob?
It's possible, and I think that's what they're showing
Yeah.
on the diagram on the right, that 1 is the King's Chamber, 2 is the Queen's Chamber, and 3 is the descending passage and subterranean chambers.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of a diagonal shape going down
Yep.
right through the number 3 block.
Yep.
That could be one of the descending chambers.
Okay.
But what's that the bright red thing right on the corner of it though?
It's background signal.
Okay.
So that's another big issue.
Yeah.
Is that there's tons of background signal in this imaging process.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of one of those magic eye images. The more you
Sure.
stare at it, the more you see the pyramid.
I will say that at 2 on the right, we have a relatively clear signature of something that could be the Queen's Chamber.
Oh, the Queen's Chamber, yeah.
So that's good.
That's good.
That's good.
Okay, so do this now.
Yeah.
Now show me what the scan pyramid scan looks like compared to this stuff.
So that's another issue. They haven't published that. So the
Well, isn't that
so the
convenient?
scan pyramids team has never formally published their raw scan data.
Why?
As far as I know, I haven't seen it anywhere. I see a lot of diagrams and pictures of it, but I haven't seen any raw scan data.
And that's also done with satellites?
It's done with muon imaging technology.
Is that part of satellites?
No. It's done from internal. So basically they have these
Airplanes.
No. It's done from equipment located inside the structure that measures the absorption of cosmic rays that filter through the structure. Oh. So they have these muon detectors. These muons are these cosmic rays.
Yes.
And the detectors inside of the structure. See, this is the, yeah. Okay, so that's the raw scan right there. Maybe. Showing the area behind the blocking stone.
Okay. I saw something somewhere about drones or planes flying over the pyramids doing something.
I don't know about that. But I know that when they were doing if you click that one at the center, the top one at the center, no, here, or even in the center, yeah, the white one. So when they were scanning the big void, right, they have these muon detectors that detect these cosmic ray particles that go through the structure, and the muon detector images using the differences in these cosmic rays.
I would love to see their raw data, see what it looks like.
I'm being very objective in my analysis of this data.
Yeah.
And you're 100% correct that the muon scanning team has never, as far as I know, in all of my research, I've never seen the raw data from the muon scanning project either. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move through their paper on the Great Pyramid.
Okay.
So here again, we see the King's Chamber at the top, overlaid with their raw scan data. So the diagram is on the left, overlaid in the middle, and raw scan data on the right.
Not a perfect match.
Yeah. Again, there's lots of background stuff. There's lots of noise in the raw scan data, and they admit that this is a problem. The configuration of the chamber is not readily visible. They have some vague detection of stuff in that area. But it's also above, it's also below, it's on the left and the right. It's not a conclusive image.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
What is the Queen's Chamber? Does it have granite in it?
The Queen's Chamber does not have any granite.
And the King's Chamber does.
The King's Chamber is completely made of red granite.
Interesting.
Including the relieving chambers.
Maybe that's why you can't see the King's Chamber. Maybe it can't detect granite. That would be a difference.
They have other ones where they do show the granite beams.
Okay.
So let's go, again, step by step here.
Sure. What's next?
Down at the bottom, images of the Queen's Chamber. So there is a highlight of something in that area.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can see it going parallel through
Correct. You can kind of see the shaft going horizontal out of the Queen's Chamber. So I think this is a good one. So this is a positive thing.
Yes.
That corroborates, again, I'm a stickler for the known chambers. Your new technology has to be able to show us what we know is there.
Right.
And this is a good one. The Queen's Chamber shows up. Okay, so this is another image showing their scan of the King's Chamber. So the diagram overlaid on top of the raw scan data.
So this is another scan?
So yeah, they took a bunch of tomographic lines. So this takes a long time.
Oh.
So every time the satellite goes over the pyramid, they image it again. So they took a ton of these slices in the process of imaging. And these are showing different slices of those tomographic lines.
Right.
So this one, it kind of does show the red granite beams, the horizontal beams. But it also, if you look below the red granite beams in the relieving chamber, it's also showing horizontal signatures where there are no beams.
So, a quick question.
Yes.
On the illustration, the black and white illustration of the King's Chamber.
Yes.
It looks like a bunch of blocks stacked next to each other.
Correct.
I thought they were single blocks that were stacked on top of each other.
So I don't know where they got the diagrams that were used in this paper. So I don't know where these are screenshots. Anybody can download this paper. And I don't know where they got these images, but yes, the relieving chamber beams are single pieces. Correct. So they might have just downloaded the wrong graphic.
Got it.
But there you kind of see these horizontal features. Scan of the King's Chamber. It doesn't match exactly. There's
close.
some horizontal. It's close. So that's something. So take that for what it's worth. Okay. Here we go into some of their models and another tomographic line of the internal chambers. So here on the right, you can see the raw scan data with an image of the chambers overlaid. We do see a signature around the central chamber, the Queen's chamber, but we don't have any detection of the Grand Gallery or the King's chamber.
Interesting.
And if you are taking this slice of the Great Pyramid, these chambers are lined up on top of each other. And I'll show you a diagram that shows the tomographic line.
Yeah, it seems very inconsistent.
It would be very difficult to take a slice of the Queen's chamber that doesn't pick up the rest of the chambers.
Right.
And then here on the left is some of the models
that they created?
And this comes directly from Filippo. He said that they created these models as an artistic interpretation of what they see in the raw scan data.
Okay.
In my opinion,
I don't see any connection between
exactly.
the model.
That's my point. I do not see any justification for the extrapolation from the raw data into the model.
No.
It does not make any sense.
No. Did you ask him about this?
Yeah.
What did he say?
He said, again, it's an artistic interpretation based on...
What did he say when you said it doesn't match at all?
Again, so I asked him over and over in the Malta conference, why don't these things match? His answer repeatedly, and again, the whole thing is on film, of me asking these questions during the Malta conference, and he told me to ask questions during the presentation. He said, interrupt me and ask questions. So anytime something like this came up, this is a part when I was actually looking at it, I said, hey, Filippo, why here on this scan on the bottom left is it picking up the Queen's chamber, but it can't pick up the Grand Gallery and the King's chamber? His answer was repeatedly, I don't know.
Okay.
Very polite, very honest, very genuine.
Okay.
Again, Filippo is a good dude. And I really, really like these guys. But this is one of the reasons that they trust my interpretation, is because this is my life, knowing the configuration of the pyramids.
Okay.
And if there is a new technology to show us inner chambers, I want to make sure that it can first and foremost accurately detect what we know is there. That should be step one, is proof of concept, which we'll get to that in just a second when they're talking about the modern structures that they scanned. So here is the configuration of the chambers inside the Great Pyramid. And you can see that if you take a slice down the middle, you're going to get all of these chambers in the scan because they're all on top of each other. So if you're slicing down the center of the Queen's chamber, you're going to get the King's chamber. If you're slicing down the descending passage and the ascending passage into the Queen's chamber and Grand Gallery, you're going to get the King's chamber and the Queen's chamber. So it's very difficult to take slices down these things where you don't pick up the other chambers.
Right.
Again, if you took a tomographic line down the far left side of the King's chamber, you're going to only get an image of the King's chamber and not the rest of the Queen's chamber.
Because they're not all lined up.
Correct. There are areas of the structure where everything is aligned, but there are some very specific areas where only the King's chamber would come up in a scan.
Interesting.
So again, it's this idea of tomographic lines and slices of the structure, where this is a good explanation
for why. Yes.
Now, this doesn't apply to the central pyramid, because if you slice down the middle of the structure, everything in the central pyramid is aligned at the center of the central pyramid.
Okay.
So you should be able to detect those structures. If you're imaging above the Belzoni chamber, you should also be able to detect the internal structures.
Interesting.
So this is an explanation for the tomographic line.
Okay.
Again, raw scan data overlaid on top of an image of the Great Pyramid. They're also showing here that they're detecting this newly discovered chamber or shaft on the northern side.
That could be the big void?
No. So the big void is located directly above the Grand Gallery, which they're not really showing this big void either, which is said to be the same size, length, and shape of the Grand Gallery. That's not showing up either.
Okay.
Again, good point. We don't have the raw scan data from the Scan Pyramids team and their Muon data showing us the exact configuration either. So again, take it for what it's worth.
Sure.
This is just an objective analysis of what we have. So you see here on the right in tag 17 and 18, that area of detection in the raw scan, it kind of overlays with this newly discovered shaft that they found on the northern face below the chevrons. So here, again, the image above the Grand Gallery doesn't show us a big void in the same area that's reported by the Scan Pyramids team, but we don't have that raw data to compare it either.
Right.
So this is kind of a not situation where it's neither one or the other. We can't corroborate or validate the scan of the area above the Grand Gallery because we don't have the muon data either.
Right.
So we can't say if their imaging technique is good compared to the vetted technology. Okay. So here are some more scans showing tag 1, 4, and 7 that are shown here on the model. These inclined features that they're detecting inside of the Great Pyramid that they have modeled here on the left. So they are picking up something, these long diagonal features that they show here in white and black. 7 is a transverse beam, and 1 and 4 are these step-like features, and 4 is going down into the bedrock. So is there something in the raw scan data? Possibly. Do I think it's justified to show it in the model like what they have there? I don't see it.
Yeah. Got it.
So this is just a comparison between the raw scan data on the right. Again, this is all coming directly from their paper, tag number 2, which is shown in the model at tag number 2, which is the same thing as number 1, but on the other side.
Right.
This step-like feature. I don't see any steps.
No.
In the raw scans.
No, I don't.
And I don't see where they're getting this step-like feature in the model.
It kind of looks like a step there, number 2.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Again.
But where is 2 on the left? I don't see 2 on the left.
It's the other. So the white step feature at number 1 on the model, look at the other side. That's number 2.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. So it's 1 and 2 on each side.
Yeah. I don't know how you come up with that model from that.
Yeah. It's a bit of a stretch.
It is a bit of a stretch.
So again, take it for what it's worth. More scan data and more models.
Yeah.
This is all coming directly from their first paper. Raw scan data on the right, their artistic model on the left.
Okay.
So here is again more raw scan data. They're saying tag number 10 is the Z here, and tag number 10, they're saying tag number 10 is the Grand Gallery, and the Z with the arrow is supposed to be the King's Chamber.
The Z? What are you talking about?
They call the King's Chamber the Z Chamber for some reason. I don't know why they've picked that nomenclature.
Maybe it's an Italian thing.
But anytime you see Z, they are referring to the King's Chamber.
Okay.
Okay, more raw scans compared to the models, raw scan data compared to the model.
All right.
Are they detecting something? Again, you see Z here, which is supposed to be the King's Chamber, compared to the model that they're showing.
All right.
Tag number 19 that you see here in the model in green is reflected in the raw scan data on the right. They're saying this is the big void at tag number 19.
Okay.
But it's so difficult to differentiate between the background signal that we really have no idea what they're looking at.
No.
Nor do we have any corroboration from the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities that this was even a scan of the Great Pyramid. Mm-hmm. We have no idea what it is because technically speaking, they did this illegally without the approval or collaboration of the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities. They just used the satellites. They shot radar beams at the pyramids.
Yeah, but that's not illegal.
It is illegal.
To shoot something from space, take a picture from space?
From the perspective of the Egyptians, it's absolutely illegal. From a moral international law, nobody owns space.
Right.
Right? So is it a crime? The Egyptians would say yes. Again, take it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But they had no permission from the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities to scan any of this stuff.
Sure.
So we don't know for sure that this is even an image of the pyramid because we have no archaeological or academic collaboration between this completely independent team and academic or government-sponsored institutions.
Is there any reason to believe that the Egyptians are pissed off that they did this?
Oh, they are. I know
really?
for sure.
You know they are.
For sure. Yeah, they loathe this team.
How do you know that?
I know people. Dude, I live in Egypt. I have friends that are members of the Ministry of Antiquities administration team. They hate these guys.
Why?
Because again, they circumvented the powers that be. You can't do this when it comes to Egyptian archaeology. I'm not saying that's the right thing.
Right.
And I do think the public
They're pearl clutching.
should have this type of technology for scanning and doing this type of thing. So what they're trying to do is very, very important. But from an academic and archaeological perspective, you have to work with the team to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Which is why this SAR team is having a lot of trouble getting traction in the conventional scientific and academic community.
Right.
Because they circumvented all of that and they are a completely independent, unsponsored, unapproved team, which is okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's a negative thing. I'm just explaining
it's a lot likely that the Egyptians are going to work with them now because they're pissed off.
Never. Again, we talked about at dinner that they will never be granted permission to move a grain of sand in Egypt. They've burned all of the bridges. Wow. So again, more raw scan data.
Yeah.
More models.
Okay.
From their first paper.
All right. What about the shit underneath?
Driven that home. Okay, so here, right, they're scanning the Great Pyramid. There's nothing underneath the structure.
Well, you can't really see underneath, right?
Well, they have it on the right where they're scanning down into the bedrock.
That's supposed to show underneath too?
Correct.
Okay, I see.
So there's in their first paper, they're not showing any structures below the Great Pyramid. Nothing. Okay?
Right.
That's important.
Yes.
Because now they're saying that there is. So why does it not come up on this original scan?
You kind of have that little thing on the left that kind of goes down below, but
it starts in the air.
It starts in the air.
It starts in the air. It goes through the side. So it's most likely background interference.
Yeah.
So this whole thing could just be background signature where some of it just happens to land on top of the known chambers.
A gabagool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have no idea what this is.
All right.
Filippo Biondi is the only guy that knows this proprietary technology. So this is just my objective assessment. Again, here you see the scans not showing anything below the structure and more models. These are more models that they created to show what they think is hidden inside the Great Pyramid. No mention whatsoever of subterranean features. So now this is their official abstract of the conference and their formal press release for the new scans that happened for the Central Pyramid. Okay, again, these are the models from their first pyramid scan. And this is their new data, the raw scan data of scanning above the Belzoni chamber.
Okay.
So we have these images here. You see the one down at the bottom? They're saying that these down at the bottom are similar to their scans of the king's chamber, these sort of horizontal features.
Yeah.
So they're interpreting this raw data as being evidence of chambers that look like the king's chamber in the Central Pyramid.
Okay. Inside of it?
Inside the Central Pyramid.
Okay.
Above the Belzoni chamber.
Okay.
So that's what this is, the raw scan data. High def image of that raw scan.
Okay.
Again, big problem with this.
Look at that definition.
Yeah. Again, they use the words, quote, transparent like a crystal.
Yeah.
I have a lot of problem with that verbiage.
Yeah.
So they do have these vertical features here, vertical and horizontal features that kind of look like their scans of the king's chamber. So they're saying that this raw scan at the top is showing king's chamber-like features. So this is being extrapolated into this. Okay, so let's go back again. Raw scan data here. of the area above the Belzoni chamber.
Okay.
Does not show the known configuration.
Okay, so what they're saying, what they're interpreting this image to be, which is the middle pyramid,
Yes.
is a bunch of king's chambers,
Correct.
inside of the middle pyramid,
Correct.
and a bunch of cylinders going down into the earth.
Right. But in this raw data, where are the cylinders?
I guess they're saying that those spikes that are going down.
Doesn't look like it to me.
Go to the picture.
Okay, so now let's go to their model. They're going from this
What?
to this.
Extra ones.
So they're saying that there's a group of these King's Chamber-like features that they're seeing in this and this. Again, this is the raw data.
And we don't know of any king's chambers in the middle pyramid.
There's nothing in there.
There's nothing.
There's nothing.
You know that for a fact?
This was done in the 1970s using this muon technology. They scanned this exact same area.
Yeah.
They didn't find anything.
Okay.
Now, is that true or not? I don't know.
Okay.
Same thing with the modern scans, the muon scans. Where's the raw data?
We don't have it.
So I'm not trying to debunk this.
Mm-hmm.
You asked for my honest interpretation on this as a dedicated pyramid researcher. And I just got to call it like I see it.
And what is
People
your
got
conversation
super
been
upset.
like? It looks so much different. Like, right. I see what you're saying. Like, it seems bogus that they came up with that image.
Right.
So when you present it in this way to Filippo or to Jay, what do they say?
They agree with all of my criticism.
Okay.
And they accept it as issues. So anytime I ask Filippo a question about why X, Y, and Z, he would say, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, but it's a really good question and we're working on it.
Okay.
So again, if anything, this is encouragement for the team to help them solidify their presentation and to corroborate some of this data.
And didn't they say in the very first paper that they can't go into the ground?
SAR radar cannot penetrate the target object.
No. They said that when they scanned the middle pyramid, even with the Doppler tomography, they couldn't get into the bedrock, right?
So that was their explanation for why they can't detect the known chambers is because the radar signal is absorbed by the bedrock.
So if that was their explanation for that, how do you square it with this?
Exactly. That's my whole point about that, is that their own statement about the signal being absorbed by the bedrock in 15 meters of the bedrock, how are we supposed to believe this if you can't image something in 15 meters of bedrock because your signal is absorbed?
Mm-hmm.
How can we believe this? There's a big disconnect for me between their statements about the capabilities of the radar, it being absorbed in this bedrock. All the bedrock is the same. It's all Giza limestone bedrock.
Mm-hmm.
There is no limestone slab.
Mm-hmm.
It's limestone bedrock. So here are some of their first images of these cylinder structures below the central pyramid, saying that they're hollow inside and they have these spiral staircases.
This is a different one.
This is their scan of what's below. This is their first imaging of the cylinder structures that they show here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is their model that comes from this.
Oh.
So they see these features and they're
1, 2, 3, 4.
and they say there's 8.
There's about 8, yeah.
Okay.
I see 8.
And they say that they're connected into these cube-like features down at the bottom. So here at the top left is the raw scan data of this cube that is connected into these cylinders.
I can see how you can interpret that to be 2 cubes.
Yeah. The top left?
Yeah. Kind of looks like a big box on the left, like maybe another box on the right.
Yeah. So again, here on the right.
I'm being generous.
Yeah. So here on the right is showing how they extrapolated the raw scan data into becoming a cube in some sort of software there that created this cube thing.
Okay.
So that's taking the raw scan data and extrapolating it further to where this is showing a cube type structure.
Right.
So there's some software stuff going on here.
Some magic.
The Biondi Protocol is what this is called. Proprietary. Only Filippo is the only guy that knows how this. There's tons of experts on SAR radar. The radar technology itself is vetted technology.
Yeah.
The Biondi Protocol is the new approach.
Got it.
Using a radar that cannot penetrate the target object, but instead you're detecting vibrations on the surface of structures to show us what may be hidden inside.
Got it.
That's the whole premise of their protocol. All right, so let's go into their proof of concept and scanning modern structures. This one, they scanned this tunnel, the Carlin Tunnel, that's embedded in the side of a mountain. Here's the raw scan data of their scan of the tunnel.
This doesn't look like the colorful stuff we've been looking at.
Exactly my point, Danny Jones. Exactly my point. This is supposed to be proof of concept for this novel SAR technology. And whatever this imaging is absolutely not the same type of imaging technology that they're showing us from the pyramids. This is supposed to be proof of concept. Look, we scanned modern structures with our SAR, Doppler tomography, and this Biondi protocol, and it's showing us the inside of modern structures. Well, whatever this is not the same that they're using to image the pyramids. So how can this be proof of concept for this technology if this imaging doesn't look anywhere close to what they're showing us from the pyramid data?
Right.
Big problem.
Yeah.
Here's the other one you were talking about.
Laboratory.
Oh,
the
they scanned the laboratory from space. It's corroboration. They scanned the modern structure and it proves it. Here's the raw data showing the scan of the laboratory.
Okay, I can see it there.
But it doesn't look anything like what they're showing us from the pyramids.
Well, it's just all blue. There's no red, but you can see the shapes in there.
Yeah, but it doesn't look anything like this.
No, it doesn't look like that.
So how can this...
But you can see the shapes.
Oh, yeah. No, so I'm not arguing that in this scan, I think they are detecting that structure. But whatever was used to generate this image is not the same that was used to generate this.
Sure.
Where is the disconnect? This is another thing that we need an explanation for this.
Yeah.
How can this be proof of concept if it is not the same type of imaging technology used to produce this? There's something that happened there. I don't know what that is. I haven't gotten an answer from Filippo about this. But as soon as I saw this in the conference, I was like, dude, this isn't the same thing.
And what'd he say?
I didn't ask him that during the conference.
Okay.
It was one of those things that I registered during the thing, but it didn't pop up as a question at the time. This is something that, again, I was originally about 50-50 about this. After repeated analysis of the data, I'm more like 30-70.
Okay.
30%, there's some potential. 70%, I don't buy it. And I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I think so.
So again, this is supposed to be proof of concept. Everybody's talking about, oh, look at the lab scan, look at the lab scan. Bro, it doesn't look anything like this. And whatever technology they use to scan this lab, it does not corroborate this type of same data.
And they, again, to be very generous to them, it could be something that's very explainable that they just thought wasn't necessary to explain.
Sure, 100%.
We don't fully understand.
But again, these are things that need to be explained.
Yeah, totally.
So this is just my analysis, which is why they invited me to come to the conference, because they knew I was going to ask these type of technical questions. And I was objectively going to look at this from somebody who, I kind of like, I like these guys and I care about their future. And if this is viable technology, it could be revolutionary for our understanding of the Egyptian pyramids. And you were asking me, how does this work with my work? I could easily assimilate all of these structures into my model for the function of the Egyptian pyramids.
Well, right, because I mean, you were explaining those natural, those vertical veins.
Okay, so
that could be.
That's another thing that they could possibly be detecting natural geologic features like these hydrothermal vents, which are kilometer deep vertical structures in the bedrock. But they're saying it cannot be geological, mainly because they don't know that these features exist on the Giza Plateau.
Interesting.
They don't have my info. They're not privy to all the new data, man.
Right. But you think it's possible that there
use a
could be,
quote
those could
from
be
the Big Lebowski.
shapes like that under there. They could be thermal vents.
They could be.
But you don't think that that is up to muster for proving that, because those it doesn't match.
Again, there's some big issues that need to be answered first.
Yeah.
Before I could jump on board with supporting any of this.
Right.
It's fascinating. It's possible that they're showing something, but again, my life is focused on the internal chambers of these pyramids. And my entire hypothesis is based on that known configuration. So if I'm going to take a leap and start incorporating other stuff, I really need to see that your technology can pick up what we know is there. And that they haven't reliably been able to do that yet. This is their next one, of the Mosul Dam. And this is the first proof of concept. So this scan of the laboratory is very different than what they're using on this scan of the Mosul Dam, which is another structure that they scanned. And they're saying that they're detecting these turbines inside of the Mosul Dam. So here is the configuration of a Kaplan turbine. And they're saying that this is the signature of the Kaplan turbine inside of the Mosul Dam. This is promising. However, my objection to this is that these are modern machines that are in operation. So they are actively moving and vibrating inside of the structure.
Yeah.
It can't be proof of concept for scanning ancient structures where there are no moving operating components.
True.
Nor do we have, so they're showing these two types of turbines here. And this is their imaging, one of them showing a Kaplan turbine and one of them showing a Francis turbine. They have, yeah, those are exactly the point. There on the left, that red blob, group of blobs, is supposed to be the Kaplan turbine. And the one on the right is supposed to be the Francis turbine. But they haven't provided any engineering diagrams of the Mosul Dam to show us that there are indeed these two types of turbines located directly next to each other within the same structure.
Right.
So we don't have any corroboration from engineering of the Mosul Dam that shows that this is accurate.
Wow.
They show some images of these two types of turbines. So this Kaplan turbine is more of a vertically oriented one. And then the other turbine is this circular type thing.
Right.
And then they showed this raw data showing kind of a vertical looking thing and then kind of a circular thing for the Francis turbine. But they didn't show any diagrams or schematics of the Mosul Dam that show that this scan is accurate to the known engineering layout of the Mosul Dam.
Right.
That's my only point of contention. It does show something, but these are also modern machines that are actively producing vibrations.
Yeah.
That's what their software is designed to detect. Micro vibrations inside of a structure that are read on the surface to show what's inside.
Sure. So it's going to be more pronounced for something that's active.
Correct.
In use.
Again, Goddard Tunnel, another tunnel that they scan that's inside of a mountain. This doesn't look anything like the other raw scan data. So whatever they're using to produce this image and these proof of concepts, in my opinion, are excluded from the conversation because it's not the same type of technology.
Yeah, and then also the things that people are seeing on Instagram and on Twitter and all over social media are they took his images and then they enhanced them even more
on
with AI
Correct.
to make them look insane.
It's all propaganda, dude.
Yeah.
It's all AI propaganda
it's been
and hype.
taken and it's been
because everybody's looking at these models.
Yeah.
Look at the models. Look at the models of the things and these AI generated images.
Yeah.
Me, I want to see the raw scan data.
Yeah.
Show me on that raw data evidence of what you're talking about.
Right.
So are these showing something? Yes. Does it look like the same raw scan data that we see with the pyramids? No. Again,
well, his paper's out for peer review right now, right? So
the second one is coming out soon. I don't know if it's been formally published yet.
Okay.
But so
think he said it was
the
on
peer
Jesse
review
Michael's
process
podcast.
has to happen first before publication.
right, exactly.
So it hasn't been officially published yet.
Exactly, right.
It's out for peer review.
It's for peer review. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. Which I give a lot of credit to these guys. You know, this is pretty revolutionary stuff. And like I said at the beginning, this is not an attempt to debunk their work. All I'm doing is calling it like I see it. You can either love it or you can hate it. You can believe it. You can not believe it. I don't care about anyone's opinion. The only thing I can do is critically analyze this stuff and give my opinion, which is what you asked me to do today.
Right.
And I think after seeing all this stuff, again, hopefully I didn't rain all over your parade.
No, you didn't. This has been great.
Pretty interesting.
No,
right?
it is. It's very rare that you find people that are going like all the way down to the source of this stuff to figure out what's actually happening.
Right.
It's hard to do nowadays.
So again, he's talking about here in the presentation how the scanning is actually obtained. Again, it's flyovers of these radars that generate range compression. So there you can see the first raw scan data. They then compress it, interpolate it, and azimuth compression to create the target object, all within this software. So
With
it's a complex process. I think the plane is meant to represent
A satellite. Got it.
So this 4-step process done in the software is what generates the final pinpoint image of the object.
Okay.
So it's a complex software algorithm that does all of this stuff. It even says down there, it's an illustration of the sequence of operations in this Doppler algorithm.
Right.
It is the software that is unique to the Biondi protocol. He again saying this vibration analysis, it's not scanning the structure, it's picking up phonons on the surface, these micro vibrations that they're actually using to scan these things. So the Osiris shaft, they scan something that has a vague similar configuration to the Osiris shaft. So here you see the points on the raw scan data that they're saying are lining up with the Osiris shaft.
Okay.
It's very vague.
Yeah.
And shout out to Night Scarab, who actually did the measurements. And he found that the measurements of their scan does not add up to the actual configuration.
Whoa.
So the whole upper level is off by more than 4 meters. So there's people that have really done in-depth analysis of this.
Yeah.
And something doesn't add up about the scan compared to the known configuration of the Osiris shaft.
Yeah.
Not to mention the water level, which is another big issue.
Yeah.
So this is where they're scanning below the final pyramid, the Menkaure pyramid, showing these same vertical features. Wow. These tubes, cylinders.
Definitely something there.
I have my own personal interpretation of what's causing this, but I don't want to talk about it publicly because I'm not an SAR expert. I have an opinion about what's causing this, but until I get corroboration from Filippo and actually get to have a good sit-down conversation with him, I don't want to provide speculative interpretation for what's causing this.
Sure.
I'm not qualified to technically analyze what's happening in his software, but there's a lot of signatures in this thing that are not indicative of actual objects.
Right.
It's an artifact of the radar technology.
Right.
So again, they're scanning below the Menkaure pyramid. They're finding these vertical features. Here, you see one of them below the pyramid of Menkaure, this vertical signature there on the right on the raw scan data. Again, how do you get from that to this? I have no idea. Nor are they properly representing the water level. So they're showing the water level super deep below the Giza Plateau, which is not true. Shout out Matt Simpson, again, Ancient Architects, did a full video on this.
That's where the water should be?
That's where the water level is.
Wow.
But they're showing it way down here.
Interesting.
Which is not accurate. So there's a big problem there with their representation of the water table on the Giza Plateau. So some pretty major issues.
Right.
And this was the conclusion of the presentation, showing the vertical columns below all the structures on the Giza Plateau. We showed how in the Great Pyramid original scans, there were no vertical features. Now they're saying that there are vertical features. Again, how can this be true if your radar signal is absorbed in 15 meters of bedrock, man?
Yeah.
That's the nail in the coffin for me. And it comes directly from them.
Right.
We can't detect the known chambers below the central pyramid because our radar gets absorbed in 15 meters of bedrock.
Well, hopefully we can get some answers soon.
We'll see what happens. And I'm looking forward to reading their officially published paper.
Yeah.
And again, I've been following this for several years and I'm super interested in it. Is there some viability and potential for this technology? Yes, 100%. But there's also some unanswered questions that need to be addressed first before this can really be taken seriously from an academic perspective.
Right.
Which is why the community at large, from the scientific community, has rejected this right off the bat. Because there's so many unanswered questions and issues regarding the known configuration. And this is, again, it's a completely novel technology. Not the radars themselves, but the software used in the Biondi protocol, which is kind of a big discussion now about this being vetted technology. The radars themselves are, but the approach to image inside of structures using this SAR is a novel proprietary process developed by Filippo Biondi.
Right. Well, Geoffrey.
Dude, this was epic, man.
We just did a 6.5 hour fucking marathon podcast.
Yeah. So feel free to, chop it up and do whatever you want to do.
It's going out raw. We're raw dogging this thing.
Yeah.
Straight to the world. They're going to get every single bit of it. We'll break it up into chapters so people can dissect it in chunks over weeks.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But dude, thanks again, man. This has been super enlightening, super fun.
My pleasure.
I learned a fuckload.
Thank you.
And
it's a huge compliment to hear the feedback from you and other podcast hosts that, again, it's the most comprehensive explanation that they've ever heard. So if anybody wants to come to Egypt, I'm hosting a tour in 2026 at the end of the year. Send me an email, contact@thelandofchem.com, subject line 2026 Egypt tour. You can come on an Egypt tour to see all this stuff up close in person, including a detailed investigation of the iron veins on the Giza Plateau. Go subscribe to Let's Go with Lex and G, Egyptian Trash Cats, and my wife's channel, Archeo Alchemy. There's links in all of my YouTube videos. I didn't mention my book this entire podcast, which is good.
Son of a bitch.
So last plug, if you want to pick up a copy of the book, I do have a book available, landofchem.com. Also have tons of merch. Yeah, shout out my beautiful wife, Lex, from Archeo Alchemy. Amazing. So she's got a video, if you scroll up there, on the 40-meter long Tic Tac object. So if you want to see her analysis of the lost labyrinth, we've been out.
We didn't talk about the TikTok.
There's no such thing. I showed you the raw scan data at dinner last night.
Yeah.
There's nothing there, bro.
We looked at the raw scans of the labyrinth, and there's nothing that shows a metal Tic Tac.
There's nothing there.
Who came up with that? Who said there was a metal Tic Tac?
I don't want to point fingers.
Come on, who was it?
No, it's not appropriate.
They said it, and so we can say it.
Yeah, they claimed it.
But there's a number of people in the community that are circulating the rhetoric of 40-meter long.
Who started it? That's my question.
I don't know where it came from.
Okay.
All I know is certain people have picked up on it and ran with it. And it's this type of rhetoric that is detrimental to legitimate archaeological investigations. Same thing with the SAR team. By circumventing the powers that be, we probably will never get access to excavate any of this stuff. They'll shut it down completely. That's just how the Egyptian government works. Same thing with this TikTok UFO thing. By talking about rhetoric like that, it completely discredits any possibility for legitimate archaeological investigations. Because if you're associating your research with UFOs and XYZ, it's over. For a possibility of actually excavating in Egypt.
Right.
You have to toe the party line. Whether that's right or not, I don't necessarily agree with it, but it is what it is in terms of how things operate in Egypt.
For now. For now, until some of those old fossils die off and get replaced by younger, more open-minded folks.
Yeah, it's certainly possible.
Yeah.
And it also requires lots of money.
Yeah.
And nobody's pumping the money that would be required for the excavation of the Hawara labyrinth.
Hopefully Matt Bell can do it.
We'll see. He's actively involved in these things in the Great Pyramid, the investigation of the Queen's Chamber Northern Shaft, and the Great Void exploration. They're going in there and they're going to see what's actually in there.
I'm fucking pumped, dude.
So shout out to Matt for stepping up.
Shout out to Matt.
You know, again, I'm really excited to see what happens. 2026 is going to be a big year, man.
I'm pumped
across the board.
Well, we got to do this again next year, hopefully, if you come back, and we'll do an update.
I'm not coming back to the U.S. for a while.
You're not?
Yeah. 2027 will be the next time that we come back.
All right, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, but you can come to Egypt or Japan.
I'm down.
Yeah,
it's definitely on my bucket list, dude.
Danny Jones podcast, Egypt expedition.
All right, bro. We'll link all your stuff below. All the links, people can find it right down below.
That was massive, dude.
Including all the papers. Dude, That was fun.
Shout out Egyptian Trash Cats. Best channel on YouTube.
Egyptian Trash Cats, baby.
All right, we're out.
Good night, everybody.